Good morning, colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen seated here, those who are watching online. Good morning to you all. My name is Chiamaka Uchebu, and we're happy to be here. This is our ESG Day, collaborating for sustainability. And I am collaborating with
Adeboale Eboda. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues.
Good morning, everyone. I trust the week has been delightful so far. No complaints, right? So this Wednesday is going to be super delightful as well. We have a lot of things planned. This is indeed a special day. We have been literally counting down to this day, and alas, it's here.
Yeah,
it's here. Our very own ESG Day, the first of its kind. It's here today. So today we will shine a light on all our efforts so far, and also celebrate all the research, adoption, the strategy so far towards sustainability. And I know you're excited as well. I am excited for the things we've planned out for today. Are you excited?
absolutely. I'm very much excited. And I guess, Chiamaka, without much ado, as is our custom here in Seplat,
we would take the safety movement now.
Yeah.
Yes. So technical team, let's have the safety video come up, please.
Together, we're facing the greatest water challenge in the history of humankind. Water makes up 3/4 of the Earth, yet only 2.5% of it is fresh water. 70% of that is locked up in glaciers and permafrost. We need a lot of water. Each year, humans use 4,600 cubic kilometers of fresh water for agriculture, industry, drinking, and household use. It's no wonder that 1/4 of people in the world don't have enough safe drinking water, and half of the world lack proper sanitation. Meanwhile, our population is growing. From now to 2050, it will increase from 8 to 10 billion people globally. According to UN predictions, already by 2030, the demand for water will be 40% higher than the available supply. To satisfy human needs, we must look to other water sources. For instance, just under our feet lies a hidden freshwater resource, groundwater. It makes up 30% of the world's fresh water and already supplies over half of the world's drinking water. Sustainably extracted and managed, it could supply enough fresh water for 2,000 years of human use. But our groundwater is at risk. It is the most extracted natural resource in the world. 1/3 of all groundwater aquifers are on the brink of depletion from over-extraction, and once they collapse, they can never be rebuilt. Additionally, through droughts, pollution, poor water sanitation, leakages, energy-intensive management systems, and the growing effects of climate change, this precious resource is becoming scarcer by the day. At this rate, we could lose 1/3 of our global freshwater resources permanently. On World Water Day, we urge people everywhere not to take for granted this hidden source of precious freshwater. Let's work together to better manage our water systems, to improve water quality and reduce impact at each stage of the groundwater cycle, from extraction, use, and recycling, to finally returning it safely to the earth, so that everyone, everywhere, has enough fresh water to live. Together, we need to make sure that every drop counts.
Okay, that video we just saw, just a bit of context to it. We celebrated World Water Day on the 22nd of March with the theme Groundwater, Making the Invisible Visible. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And Seplat has taken management of this precious resource from day one of our operations.
That's right.
We monitor groundwater for contamination, and we also do reinjection in
The
some
LTF.
of our, yes, exactly.
And actually, it is on record that Seplat is now able to treat and inject up to 40,000 barrels of water per day. And as Chair Maka has already mentioned, we monitor groundwater for contamination. The drilling, even in drilling, the water is recycled, and going forward, we'll be tracking and monitoring the use of potable water at our FLB's offices and across our operations. So yeah, that's a very, very useful video clip.
Yes, extremely useful. I think that's a fantastic way to start, knowing what we are currently doing. And I believe this ESG Day is to celebrate what we are doing and what we plan to do with regards to sustainability.
Collaborating.
So, yes,
for
collaborate,
sustainability.
because it's not even just one department. It's not just external affairs. It's not just HSC. It's not just production. It's not just engineering. It's a shared responsibility. We all need to collaborate to ensure that our business is sustainable. So, a round of applause again today for all of us. It's
Let's
a
put our hands
special
together
day.
for
It's a
ourselves.
special day. Round of applause. Yes. Very quickly, the next item on our agenda is the voice of the Seplat people, a vox pop.
Voxbox, yeah.
Yes, we went around the organization and we had certain people share their views on what they think ESG means to them. So you have people talking about the environment part, you have people talking about the sustainability part, the social part, the governance part. And I'm sure some of them are here. So if you see yourself, you could just send a message in the chat box and say, oh, that's me, just for laughs, you know. So please, technical team, let's have the Seplat, the voice of the Seplat people video come up. Thank you very much.
ESG simply means environmental, social, and governance. Is a connection between the world in which we live, the people that live in the world, and how the behavioral pattern of the people that live in that world, how it affects an organization, and how we ensure that working in the organization, we actually also sustain the world for the future generations.
ESG, it's a collective consensusness for responsibility, for sustainability, for ethical diligence, if I could say so. And then not just for now, but also for the changes we envisage in the future for business environment. Speaking from a personal perspective, it would foster diversity and inclusion. It will give every employee an enabling environment where they can actually come into work, feel safe and happy to do their work.
Understanding ESG is environmental, social, and governance. For us in the oil and gas space, it typically underscores our commitment to ensuring safety in environmentally aware manner and socially aware, as well as compliant to establish regulations around well practice.
ESG is just basically talking about environmental, social, and governance issues. And ESG has become really topical, not because it's a nice to have, but because it reflects how we do business in a responsible manner, such that we do business, earn our profits, but still improve on the environment. Not just the environment, but the social aspects of the ESG, which is the you and I, the people who run the business, who make the business go round.
As a company, a good ESG performance ensures that we have freedom to operate because we've earned the trust of community stakeholders. Also, it is an excellent ESG performance that ensures a conducive working environment with positive morale. Diversity and inclusion are the hallmark of good ESG performance.
When a company has good ESG performance, it makes people or the public believe in the company. So you have banks that are willing to invest in this company. You have people in the public ready to buy the shares of this company, invest in the future of this company. And in those ways, you make everybody happy. As a business, you're happy. Your employees, your stakeholders are happy as well. And your communities, everybody is happy with the business.
If you look at ESG, it's about organizations' ability to create value, sustain that value over a long time. And then while you are doing that, you are managing the risk and the opportunity that you gain from the environment. That's, in a nutshell, what ESG is.
ESG is a holistic concept about organizations' ability to create and sustain long-term values in a rapidly changing world. and managing the risk and opportunities associated with these changes.
Sustainability is the ability of the business to create a long-term value by operating responsibly. Sustainability also means meeting our own need without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet their own needs. Sustainability also improves the quality of our lives, protect our ecosystem, and preserve the natural resources for the future generation.
Let's put our hands together for ourselves and for the voices of the Seplat people. So without much ado, we're coming to the point of why exactly are we here?
Exactly. Why exactly are we here? I want us to take a minute and reflect on that. Why are we here? Why are we celebrating the ESG Day? While we are reflecting, we would now call the Director of External Affairs and Sustainability to give us her insights on why we are celebrating the ESG Day today. Let's put our hands together. She comes up.
Thank you very, very much, Debo and Chiamaka, and everybody that is here. I'm really delighted and grateful to everyone who has signed in online and everyone who has come here physically to witness this day. Why are we here? As you can see from that video, the reason is obvious. We're here for the importance that we attach as a company to ESG and the importance we attach to everyone being part and parcel of enabling the company achieve its objectives and commitments on ESG. But I do also like what one of the staff said, it's for you and I. So if we achieve ESG, it's actually for the improvement of us as employees, us as human beings, us as business, who oil the engine of the business. So why are we here today? We've dedicated today, March 30th, as the ESG Day for the company. And this is the very first. The very, very first. I'm very, very excited to state that everyone who was asked to be a part of it was very, very willing and very delighted. To that I say thank you. And when I say everyone, I mean all staff. All staff, because those who have died online, they've been looking at the screensavers we've been sending and making comments. They've been asking questions about this day. And those we have said to them, please perform a role for this day. They have been willing. They've had sessions, practice sessions, discussion sessions to make sure they give us their best. So we are here for the importance of ESG. But let me just put you a little bit through some of the steps we took to ensure that you have a very fulfilling day. A day that is informational, a day that is educative, a day that is fun. So if you look at this hall, we have on our pillars the S, the G, and the E. And what we have under them is the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 of them. We clustered them. And if you look at another pillar, you see the Africa Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. So when we touch ESG, we're touching everything that's for the betterment of the future, but for the present as well. So for this day, we have created panel sessions that will give us the different perspectives of ESG, both from the board view, from us as employees, and from an expert view from outside. And why is this so important? If you take a look at the board, what I just decided to share are just 2 slides. This first one shows us that there are people that are watching. People are watching whether we're complying with our ESG. So you have the rating companies looking at us. And I say, let's take pride that we have moved a nudge up from BB to BBB. So we were rated not too long ago, and the rating meant they came into the organization, looked at everything we're doing, making sure that there are statistics for all the claims we have made in our sustainability reports or information we give them to ensure that really the company is doing all that for the E, for the S, and for the G. So, and what does BB mean? For example, it says a company with a missed or unexceptional track record of managing the most significant ESG risk and opportunities relative to industry peers. So we are not just rated alone. So that is our rating. That is to show that there are some people who are on the AA, AAA, and we're aspiring to be there. If you look at again, the company takes this business about ESG very seriously. Our CEO is actually the sponsor for a steering committee that has been created to help drive the ESG in the organization. So he knows how important this is because we're talking about business risk. If you manage the ESG, you're managing the risk. If you manage the risk, you're managing the bottom line. So some years ago, we called some experts to come into the organization and check how well we are performing. And on the right side, you'll see that long bar is high risk. We are defaulting on all those bars. There are things to do to make sure we close the gaps. So a lot of identified gaps show that what we need to do cuts across the organization. And that is why we're here today. Everything we need to do to close our gaps, to earn high ratings, they all are resting on every one of us in this room and on online and everywhere in the company. But a company as it is would always make sure we provide the enabling environment for you to perform, for us to perform, and for everyone to know their role. Today is one of such days. We create an opportunity for you to know their role, to ask questions, to get a deeper understanding of what we need to do to improve our rating and to sustain our rating. So let us look at the ESG management enablers at Seplat Energy. If you look at the enablers we're showing you here, we have our ESG policies. And as I speak, we're busy looking at the policies we don't have and making sure we're putting them in place. So going forward, you're going to be seeing a number of new policies coming and ensuring that everybody is compliant and happy to be part of it. So the company put in place a way to measure our emissions. We talk about carbonization and carbon neutrality. We need to know how we're trending up or trending down. So there are calculators to calculate this. There are people working day and night to make sure we look at every aspect of our scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. I'll use these technical terms, but I believe that during one of the sessions, you have a chance to know what it means. If you don't, please let's ask, because we have a session of we call it a power session. Ask them anything, they will give you the answer. So we have the ESG projects, we have the initiatives, we have all witness diversity and inclusion projects. That's very recent in the company. That is an ESG initiative right there, right? So we have events like this one. We have our corporate KPIs. Corporate KPIs, everybody works towards it. Remember, there is a reward for achieving those corporate KPIs. I know we know what that means. So there is an incentive to make sure we achieve our ESG KPIs. Then, of course, there's the ESG stakeholder, and the stakeholder is populated by people who are very at the point of the business where they can take accountability when we fail for our ESG. And the chairman of that stakeholder is heading one of the sessions today. I'm sure he will share a little bit more on what the ESG stakeholder has been doing so far. Then we have a software we have just purchased that will enable us. That is the G17 Eco software that will enable us gather the data, monitor how we're doing with ESG. And then we'll have the champions who will help us populate that. And of course, we try to gauge ourselves along the line of rating companies, not just rating companies, but along the line of international standards and global standards that have been set. And by the way, there are a lot of them. There are many, many of them. There is a global, there's a global GRI, there is the TCFD, there are just so many of them. But as a company and our sector, there are those that are very important that we comply with. So from time, at the end of the year, we go around, gather what we have done during the year, and hope that the next year we improve on it. And then everything we are doing as individuals subsequently here will make sure that you are part of understanding the enablers that exist and utilizing them. So on that note, I want to say thank you for coming and being part of today. Downstairs, we created an exhibition hall. The exhibition hall is for you to share in that glory of what you've created over the years. It has, pictures, and it has information regarding what you've achieved on the E and the S and the G. And then it has I can see, you can check your eyes, you can get your glasses, and you can be informed about your eye health because Seplat cares. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you. I think I'm yielding the stage to our CEO, whom is very much the other end joining us. Roger. Thank you. You have the floor. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Unfortunately, the host wasn't allowing me to unmute, so I think we're being centrally controlled here. But morning, everyone. This is a great initiative to kick off today with. So I'm delighted to be able to speak up front. Before I get going, actually, what I would say is looking around the room. I think it's fantastic, all the colors and all the people are dressed up. A lot of green out there I can see. I think, to be fair, I've judged it, and I think our Seplat awesome women have edged it over the Seplat awesome men in what I can see in front of me. It's very close, but I think the women certainly have dressed better in green. So congratulations on that. I'm sure Choma will have a prize for you. Welcome everyone to this Collaborating for Sustainability themed day. I think when I look at who's on the agenda, the sort of subjects, etc., you've got everyone from management, senior management, staff to board. There's a lot of interaction with board, and also we have some experts coming to it as well. So to Choma and her team, congratulations, well done. It's very well organized. We all think it's easy to do these things, but of course it's not. So let me just kick off. I think we've got some slides. Hopefully we can go on to the first slide here, which is to run through here we go. So if you go to the first slide, and what does ESG mean for us? What are we trying to do as a business? And ESG is not something that you sort of, it's an afterthought. It's central to what we do. It's like safety, health and safety. We're very focused on that. It's not an afterthought. It's something that you do every single day. And ESG is exactly the same. It has to be ingrained within our business. It has to be from everyone in the organization must see what it really means. So the E, the S, and the G. And if you look at our mission statement, so our mission statement, which we obviously communicated in July last year, was what does Seplat want to do? It doesn't want to be a follower. It wants to lead the Nigeria's energy transition with what we call accessible, affordable, and reliable energy that drives social and economic prosperity. So it's really focused on setting a countrywide agenda for us, which will benefit all stakeholders. And this is our mission statement. We're well positioned to lead this energy transition. We've committed right to the board level and right through the staff, our mission. We rebranded our strategic objectives to do this as well. And looking at, ESG, it's not an add-on to strategy. Again, it's the core of our strategy. So what does it really mean for us? If you get to the next slide, look at our strategic framework. So what we did is, we obviously, at the very top there, you have in the orange, strong governance. Without governance, we haven't got a business. So controlling everything we do is our governance, then feeding into that, there's a strategy. And then on the left side, we build a sustainable business. What is that? That's social development. It's an environmental care. And of course, it's financial returns. It's very important that we're in business also to make financial returns. And then when we look on the transition, we categorize our transition into those three, what we call the three pillars. So we have the upstream, which is really pillar one. That's upstream oil and upstream gas. And then pillar two, we have the midstream gas business. And we'll show what we're trying to do with that in terms of expanding it. But that's our pillar two business. And that will go from our traditional, obviously, gas processing that we're doing today, right down into gas to power, into electricity. And then in our third pillar, and you can see that in the new energy, this is renewable energy, the future of Seplat is building into a renewable energy business that makes sense for Nigeria. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But then underneath that, we have our VIP. We've always had this in our strategy, our value, integrity, and partnership. It's not just words on a piece of paper. We really mean integrity and partnership is the way we do business. And then obviously at the bottom there is the safety element to it. So the ESG is embedded within our strategic framework. The E is obviously environmental. And we look around the world, and certainly the developed world, is very focused on the E. And I think the reason why it's very focused on the E is because a lot of times in the developed world, the social is a lot more developed. Well, in Nigeria, we blend the E and the S, because socially we have a very big commitment to our stakeholders to have social development at the same time as of environmental CO2, GHG reductions, etc. And then G, which is obviously the governance. Governing our body, our business is critical to all stakeholders, not just shareholders, but also governments, employees, obviously, and communities. Next slide. So why we ask ourselves, well, is this just, lip service? Is this greenwashing? Is it, what is it? Why is it critical for a business? Well, what it does is it enables us to demonstrate that we're sustainable and socially responsible business. I think personally, we've been there since day one. We've always had this at the basis of what we do as a business. But it's very important to measure it properly, to set targets, and to deliver on those targets. So it's about communicating it to the external world of what we're doing, and why we're doing it, and how it's sustainable in the future. And if you look there, Choma ran through it, but we have these MSCI and Sustainalytics do rate us. We never looked at this before, and when we first looked at this, I think we're all pleasantly surprised where we actually peered against our peers. So we're 31 out of 171 E&P companies rated on Sustainalytics, and again we'll get better at that. And obviously MSCI, we are triple B and everything else. And again, I think we can get better at that. So it really, what does it do? It drives down costs, reduces regulatory and legal interventions, and engenders government support. So there are a lot of benefits to our business. But what we really want to do through this day is you as the staff, management, whatever you are in the business, even the board, is to fully understand it, right? Understand what it means for us, understand what it means for the external world, and see directionally where we're going with it. And then we're not going to get there without your buy-in and without your delivery. So let's go on to the final slide, because I don't want to take up our final two slides. I don't want to take up too much time. We've got a fun day ahead with fastest fingers and you name it. So let's run through the 5 main areas here of the Seplat strategy. Okay, so one is number one there, energy access. Nigeria needs affordable, reliable energy and access to the wider population, particularly with Nigeria and it's growing so fast. Affordable energy is critical to its future. And what we want to do on that upstream pillar one business is reduce our CO2 footprint, or GHG, looking at less energy, GHG emissions for energy intensity. Second one there is just transition, and we keep hearing that. What does that mean? Well, what it means is there can't be a one-size-fits-all around the globe. We have to be allowed to develop in Nigeria, and we are addressing the E, which is the environmental reduction impact. But at the same time, we have to grow, and we have to deliver energy to a wider population. So what the just transition means is that we have to be fair and allow Nigeria to grow. And that's what we're trying to do here. But what our business at the minute, of course, is displacing diesel, and that has a CO2 reduction. So we are winning on the E side. Third one there is renewables. And of course, there's abundant renewables in country, solar probably being the biggest. And again, we want to look into that in a new energy business and look at the right solar opportunities for us, maybe alongside gas to power as well. And that's being worked through on that pillar. The fourth one here is obviously Nigeria signed up to the Paris Accord, and therefore looking at the emissions reductions around that. And predominantly that big one for us is the flares out program that we're flaring out by 2024 in our business. And the fifth one here is around our gas business going into LPG and ultimately CNG, and potentially LNG into it as well. And it's really about LPG then is obviously displaces firewood for cooking, and therefore has a benefit of health benefits, but also avoids deforestation. So if you go into the last slide, so I can just conclude. Okay, so message one, it's here to stay, ESG. It's not an add-on. It's not a in vogue thing. It's here for the future. Okay, and it's essentially core to our business. We have to incorporate within all parts of our business, so we ensure that we deliver on a very collaborative way along our business objectives. And in terms of this collaboration, you can see there 4 key initiatives there, which is the ESG baseline, and again that'll be explained later today. Targets, how do we capture it properly in the various softwares, and then what regulatory bodies do we report to? We are trying to build a business for the future, and if you look, put simply, I mean, I looked at some of these numbers yesterday. So Lagos is the 12th largest city in the world today. I think by 2050 it'd be the 3rd largest city in the world, and they're predicting by the end of this by 2100, we are going to see Lagos being the largest city in the world, and it's predicted to be a population bigger than the whole of the UK. I think it's about 89 million people. So think about that: 15 million people today in Lagos, and going up to 90 million people by the end of this century. We've got to be sustainable. We've got to be. There's going to be a lot more people coming, and we've got to be able to deliver on our ESG promises. And that's why the company you're working for, Seplat, is absolutely driving this forward for the greater good of Nigeria. So get on board, have fun today. Congratulations to the team organizing this. Thank you very much on behalf of the management and staff, for the board members that are giving up their time today. And we look forward to a fun-packed day. Back to you, Choma. Thank you.
To build momentum for today's activity, we have a lot of packed activity. We're going to be moving, because of time, to the next segment of today's event. And that has to do with the ESG Power Session. Of course, as you can see, we have some members of our leadership team, both seated physically here in the auditorium, and we also have virtually. And but by the way, just to point out that we're going to have polls. Poll questions are going to be posed to each and every one of us at some point during the panel session, but and that would happen during the panel whilst the panel session is going on. So, Chiamaka, you want to introduce the ESG Steer co-chairman?
Yes, we have a power-packed house to champion this power session, And I'm going to introduce the first person here, the ESG Steering Committee Chairman, in person of Mr. Alesdia Mackenzie. I think he's online. So please,
Let's
round
put
of
our hands together
applause. Yes.
for him.
We also have physically present here, as you can all see. Effie is here. He's also a member of this panel session. And we have Mrs. Eleno Adara Legbe as well, who is present here.
Put your hands together for her. Put your hands together for Effie. And also online, we have Mrs. Yetunde Taiwo. Let's put our hands together for her also.
So that's a powerhouse. That's a powerhouse.
So we're going to hand over the lectern, the virtual lectern to Mr. Alesdia Mackenzie. Alesdia, over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can everybody hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Right. Somebody just appeared. We can hear me. Great. Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you to Roger for those opening remarks. I think we've actually got a poll running, so hopefully at the end of it, or this session, we'll get a sense of the feedback from that poll and what people's knowledge and views are on what we're doing so far. The objective of this session really is to increase awareness of how we as Seplat are thinking about sustainability and some of the initiatives that are already underway to improve our performance in this area. So that's really the objective of the session. Before we go into the panel discussion, what I'd like to do is to get Eleanor and Yetunde and Effie to talk about some of those specific things that are going on and put some context around those. Maybe it's useful to start with just winding back to the strategy, which Roger touched upon already in his opening remarks, which I think sets the scene for how we get to today. So last year we rolled out the new strategy. We changed the name of the company and we rebranded, and that was really all happening last year. So winding forward to this year, it's very much about putting all of that into practice. And one thing we did with the strategy, and you've heard several people talk about this, is we made a very conscious decision to put sustainability at the heart of the strategy. And we're going to get more into what does that mean. And there's a panel session after this one where I think there'll be quite a lot talked about that. Maybe just to give you a couple of things to keep in our minds as we go through this session. One of the big drivers for putting sustainability at the heart of the business is recognizing that we have multiple stakeholders in our business. Yes, there's shareholders, but there's staff, there's communities, there's government, there's the environment. There's a whole host of stakeholders. So what we sought to do with the new strategy is link together the mission, the vision, the statement, the value statements, to recognize that we have multiple stakeholders, and also to recognize that the objectives of those multiple stakeholders are not necessarily inherently competing with each other. In fact, it's possible to satisfy many, if not all, of those objectives in the business. And as Roger correctly highlighted, of course, the business, in order to survive, the business needs to be profitable. So that it still remains a very, very important objective for the business. So I suppose that's a bit about the importance of sustainability to the strategy. It's important to recognize that sustainability is not just the environment. Quite often it gets linked with just the S, but of course there is the E. There is of course the S and the G as well. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more about that today. And that recognizes that we, as a business, we are not only we have an impact on all of our stakeholders. We have an impact on people. We have an impact on the environment with our business, but we also rely on natural resource, in particular in our Pillar 1 business, where we're an extractive industry at the end of the day, and we rely on people. All of the staff, all of us here today, are an input to our business, and our business depends upon that. So these are some of the ideas behind why sustainability is at the heart of the business. And again, I think this will get discussed in more detail in the next panel. The next thing I think to think about is, well, how are we implementing that in Seplat? Now, the reality is it's something that cuts right through our business. It's everywhere you look, and it's important that we are therefore we are joined up across our business. Whether that's through our operations, through our supply chain, through HR, through diversity and inclusion. These are all elements of sustainability in the broadest sense. And so we need to be joined up, we need to be coordinated. And that is why we established the Sustainability Committee, which all of us in this panel participate in. And the reason we have that, as I said, is to put structure, to make sure we're joined up in defining the objectives that we're going to pursue as a company, which also means that we're hopefully going to achieve those targets. There's no point in setting ourselves targets we have no chance of achieving. So we want to set ourselves targets that we're confident we're going to be able to achieve, stretching but confident that we're going to be able to achieve those targets. So that's one of the core purposes of the Sustainability Committee. So hopefully that gives everybody a sense of how we're tackling it within the company. What I'd like to do now is really hand over to the panel and invite individual panel members to talk about areas that will hopefully give you more color around what's actually going on. So Eleanor, could I perhaps start with yourself? In your area of finance, funding the business obviously is part of that. Could you maybe give us a flavor of, and this is part of the bigger context of why ESG is important for the business, could you give us some context around the importance of ESG in finance and in funding the business?
And good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
And welcome again to our ESG Day. Actually, it's quite an exciting day, and some of the previous speakers have already sort of built the momentum. So welcome again, everyone. So ESG is now becoming increasingly important for finance. And this is because investors, as well as financial institutions, are paying more attention to ESG. So in addition to the usual key performance indicators like your financial performance or your operational performance, they're now looking to specific sustainability targets, so specific sustainability performance targets. So that's now becoming part of what is being considered by various companies and by our investors. So where we're going is what is key. And how is Seplat ready for this? Now, there's some statistics I'm going to give you, or some facts I'm going to share with you. Now, a very recent report that I just actually picked up from the Harvard Law School on ESG Trends highlights that they've continued to see significant inflows into ESG funds in 2021 when compared with 2020, excuse me. And I'm talking in 2020, they had something like $50 billion of funds going into ESG funds. And in 2021, 330 billion. So you can see the massive growth. Now, in another report by Bloomberg also highlighted, they have these intelligence reports that they issue. And the one that they issued in the past year actually highlighted that ESG assets are expected to exceed a third of assets under management. So, I think they said within about 3 years, they expect that ESG assets, so companies that have ESG assets, will be contributing more than a third of the total global assets under management. So that already gives you a sense of where the world is going. And what's so important is that it's the investors that are actually demanding this. So investors want, and now what we're seeing globally is that investors want to be a part of sustainable companies, companies that are linked to environmental and social factors. That's where the world is going. Now, if you look at Seplat, when we restructured our loan last year and we worked on our bond, looking at ESG factors was quite crucial. We did actually have to proactively engage because it was a part of the requirements. They wanted to see what our ESG targets were. They wanted to see our commitment towards ESG. And of course, the company has done the right things. I mean, Roger alluded to the fact that this is something that we have been doing in the way that we've run our business. When we were setting our targets for governance, for integrity, we already had sustainability as part of our strategy. And so now, you know, ESG is no longer a nice to have, it's now become mandatory. So in the UK, so the TCFD, which is the task force, in fact, when I thought about this, I laughed because it's the task force for climate financial disclosure. So you can see that they're looking at it as a task force, which means they're looking at the mandatory part of it. Now, TCFD reporting is now going to be a law in the UK. They're going to be the first G20 countries that are embedding this in their law. And we are quoted on the London Stock Exchange, so we will be required to comply. So this is no longer, okay, it's part of your strategy, it's nice to have, it's now mandatory. And for where we are, for where Seplat is currently, we will be required to absolutely comply with these requirements in 2020, but by next year. So for our 2020 reporting, we'll be required to comply. Now, what are the things that we've done? I mean, this has been mentioned. We went ahead and changed our name. So we've demonstrated commitment to ESG by saying we're Seplat Energy. The board has oversight for ESG. So the whole ESG framework is being overseen by the CSR board committee. So it has the board attention. We've told the world this is where we're going when we did our strategy and capital markets day last year. And so you can see that the message is actually there from the top. Now, in addition to that, when we talk to our investors, we are required to proactively engage our investors. Our analysts as well, they need to understand what we do. So one of our major requirements is to provide an understanding of our business. And because there are different metrics that are used to measure this, we are supposed to ensure that we have this proactive engagement. Now, the fact that we have to actually compete for funds means that we have to be out there, put this in the face of the market, put this in the face of our investors to demonstrate that we are fully committed and fully engaged. And with all our investor communication, they want to know where we are on ESG. Now, when you look at the some of what was shared with the Sustainalytics and MCSI, the things they're looking at, they're a range of issues. So people tend to think, oh, it's green gas, carbon emissions, and we have to deal with flares. That's the major part of what it is, but there's still a number of other factors. They're looking at your compliance, your governance. You know, somebody talked about inclusion and diversity, your human capital, your occupational health and safety. All of these factors are all the various issues that are being considered in rating us as a company when they're thinking about, our measurements. So when the banks and the fund holders want to hear about us, it's not just, yes, there's a focus on reducing gas emissions, but they also want to see the range of other issues which are also included in the rating. And in addition to, the points that were made earlier around what these rating agencies are looking for, they're also comparing us with our peers in the industry. They're looking to see how there's a change or an improvement in our rating. So they're looking at the momentum. Are we doing better? They're comparing us with our previous period. They're comparing us with our peers. So what's our role? What's really our role? Now, in 2022, when we're planning, or in 2021, when we're planning for 2022, we've devoted a significant amount of capital expenditure towards eliminating gas flaring. So this is no longer, okay, we couldn't do it, there was a contracting delay. This is serious, Because now we've set these targets, we've told the market about these targets, we've told our fund managers about the targets, we've told our owners about the targets, so we have to deliver. So when I was thinking about this, I said, okay, what are the top 3 things that we should all go away with? Number 1, deliver. Number 2, deliver. Number 3, deliver. That's what it is. When you think about how are we all supposed to be involved and engaged, that's what it is. In each of the different aspects of our business, it's not just the operations, it's every supporting angle. It's human resources, it's finance, it's supply chain, it's the community, the people who are managing community security. So everyone, and that's why when people say it's all of our responsibility, that's what we're talking about. So the contribution from everyone is what then gets to the bottom line. And then companies that demonstrate high ESG performance are the ones that ultimately have top performance. So maybe I'll just pause there, and happy to take questions. I see Effie smiling, so I think he's ready to pick up from there. Thank you, Alistair.
Thanks very much, Eleanor. Thank you, Ella. I think that's very helpful. That's given us a great flavour for the role of ESG with our equity investors and in raising finance for the business. And also you've covered off the Sustainalytics type of analyst report where they're reviewing on an ongoing basis and rating us as a company versus our peers. So thank you very much for that. Yetunde, could I maybe turn to you now? Could we talk about, as we have been doing recently in the committee, about what are the major impacts of our business, and what is the biggest impact of our business on the environment, and what are our plans in that space? Thank you.
All right, thanks. I've been finally unmuted. Thanks, Alistair. And it's such a delight to be part of this panel to share, a few pointers about what Seplat is really doing to reduce our carbon footprint, as a result of all our activities. Today, about 90% of the greenhouse gases that we emit in our operations, whether it's directly or indirectly, it comes from our gas flares. And to put some context to it, for every million standard cubic feet of gas we flare, we emit about, 157 metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent right into the environment. And so our focus on eliminating flares in our operations, has had, will have a huge impact on our improvement of our environment in terms of the greenhouse gases that we can actually cut off. For us to be able to monitor and, eventually reduce the flares, we need to have accurate flare numbers to start with, as a baseline. And so there's a lot of effort by the metering team in Seplat to quantify exactly, the flares, for us to have a basis to plan towards eliminating those flares across all our operated assets by the end of 2024 or maybe 2025 at the latest. That's our target. And mind you, this target is 5 years earlier than the target set by the Nigerian government, which places us, way ahead of most of our peers in Nigeria today. So, I must say it's a stretch for us to deliver this target. And that's why everyone needs to key into the plan, in order for us to achieve this. The good thing, though, about eliminating our flares, besides the environmental impact, is the fact that we actually get to grow our gas commercialization, through increased gas sales to the domestic market. If we're able to take out all our flares, we could be looking at almost 50 million scof of gas per day in additional gas sales. At the moment, all our flares, our projects across the company as they stand today, be it the Seplat Esg, the Western Asset, Flares Down projects, and recently, the sanction of the rotary screw compressors for, quite small gas volumes. All these projects are quite attractive, and so by creating a sustainable, environmentally responsible solution for our gas flares, we also yield the company some, good economic benefits as well. For the remaining 10% of our emissions, which, doesn't come from our gas flares, we are also addressing that. The reduction of our diesel usage in our operations and replacing that with a much friendlier source like gas is one of the initiatives that we have going on in the company. We've completed an audit of all our energy consumption sites in the fields, and the intention is for us to, reduce the current hydrocarbon use and replace it with either solar in some cases and gas in some other cases. The overall impact of this in the whole GHG scheme of things may not be that much. I did say that it's just about 10% of our emissions, but it helps drive the thinking and the overall mindset that, that's the direction the company is going towards a decarbonization future, and for everyone to be part of that agenda. I mean, we all know that now with the rising cost of diesel in the market, and there not being any clear line of sight to it going down, it surely gives us a strong business case as well to move to a more environmentally acceptable and cheaper energy source in all our operations. For the role of technology in all this, we do recognize that not all the flares can be taken out with conventional solutions. So like the compression projects that we are currently going on in the company, but we do rely on new technology to help us achieve a time in future where our flares are totally out. There are a few of those we are considering, especially for stranded flares, for lack of a better word to use. And these are areas where commerciality cannot be established because of either the quantity or the remoteness of the flares. So incineration is a new one that we are exploring on the technology front. And we are quite hopeful that something positive will actually come out of that new technology. I'll stop here because I believe I may have exhausted my time, but I'm open for questions or more clarification if there's any.
Yetunde, thank you very much indeed for that. I think you've covered very well what we're doing to reduce our GHG emissions. You touched briefly on reporting, obviously, and as Eleanor was saying at the start, in the UK, for example, as in other jurisdictions, reporting is crucial, and we're obliged to report our emissions data from this year in the UK. So that's an important linkage between what's actually happening in the business and how that gets reported and then gets seen by the external world. Effie, if I could just turn to you. You've been champing at the bit there to get into the conversation. Much of the international focus, particularly, is around E and energy transition, and as I said at the start, there's often almost a one-to-one relationship in some people's minds with sustainability and the E. But of course, it's much broader than that, and we often talk about in our business how S is equally, if not more important for us as a business. And then, of course, there's the G as well. Would you mind giving us your perspective on those two aspects?
All right, thank you very much, Alistair. So, just to echo everyone's earlier comment, good afternoon. Is it afternoon yet? Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, good afternoon. Yeah.
So first again, just to say a big thank you to everyone who's pulled this together. Dr. C, team, I know you've been quite instrumental in driving this, but the steering committee, you heard the focus of this from the board, and Roger's also giving a bit of a context why. Someone said, why are we here today? I'm sure for a lot of people, the question will be, what does this really mean? And what does it mean for me? So I'm going to be a bit more practical and more down to the basics around ESG, just to give a bit of context. My role is operations, and I've lived this for the past 32 years. So this business is about producing oil and gas. So it's good to put that in context. That's the bottom line. If we cannot produce oil and gas, we cannot exist. We will not be here. We will not make money. So it's got to be very, very fundamental. That is what we're here. We're here to provide energy. We've upgraded that now. It's about energy, right? So if you have that at the back of your mind and you ask, so what's changing? I'm sure some people are wondering, but we do HSC already. Health and safety is part of the S. I'm going to come back to Lester's point, but I just want to give a bit of a broader context. So you all know this is nothing really new, but I want to put a bit of a why this is important, why we had to shut down. I don't know how many hours today, and why it's taking Dr. C and team so much investment to pull this together. So let me go back to my thought process. So this is about producing energy to the world. And you all know we've been in this business for, energy has been there for 100 years, before Seplat even started 10 years ago. Fact number 2, if you look at the world today, you see SDGs. You can see how the and you can go to our internet and Google all these materials that are there. You can see how nicely, I think the team has done very good work to craft all the SDGs and then map them into ESG. And then you take the environment part, right? We've always been worried about the environment. True or false? So we design things from the scratch, taking cognizance about environmental requirements, right? You look at the S. This industry is one of the biggest employer of labor. We employ all of you, we pay you so much money that every other industry tends to jealous all of you here, right? Us. And then the governance part, we talked about all the, we have like 50 policies in this company, whether it's conflict of interest, gift and hospitalize, all that bit about governance, strong board. We've got all kinds of governance everywhere. So you should be wondering, so what is new? What's the big deal? Why do we have to set aside this? It's good to be really practical about what and how. Your takeaway here is, how are you going to support the direction? Because like you heard, I like that theme, is collaborating for sustainability. So this is a cross-business, cross-functional, societal challenge. The fact that Dr. C is driving sustainability doesn't because we decided to house it there as custodian, right? But the responsibility and accountability for us to achieve all what you've heard about is pretty much our collective responsibility, whether you see in SCM, HR. So that's the first context. So second context, so what is changing, right? So when I started my career, 30 years ago, we drill wells, we flare gas, it's okay. What was important is hit the numbers. So when we have market calls, all investors want is about how much have you made? What do I get in terms of total shareholder return, in terms of share price appreciation, in terms of dividend, in terms of giving cash back? But what's changing now is the world is saying, sorry, we're not going to be assessing you based on how much cash you give us, right? You cannot make that money and destroy the environment. So when we go to our fields today and you look at Oben, you see the massive flare happening there. Go to Sapele. That's a stark reminder to say the world is saying this is no longer acceptable. As just a small example, it's not just about flares, There's the methane emission, there's fugitive emission. There's so much. So what's changing now is the world is saying, sorry, you can deliver $1 billion cash flow profit, but if you're destroying the environment and you're not taking this issue around sustainability, net zero, low carbon intensity, whatever critical, then we will not invest from you and we'll take money out of you. And that's why you saw a lot of capital shifting out of fossil fuel business in the past few years. We are struggling. This is an existential challenge that this is a really case for change. So for the board to have spent a lot of time, for Roger to have given you to be the sponsor, for all what you had today, dedicating our entire organization, it means if we don't get what we're discussing here right today, we will have no business tomorrow. I just want to put that as what has changed from where we are before and where we are today. And it's all driven out of climate change. You look at all the Amazon bushfire and the bushfire in California, even in Lagos, a few weeks back, they said it's so hot. We should be having Harmattan in December. We're in summer in December. So there's a whole lot of challenge and a lot of change, and the society is saying we will not accept this. So I just want to put that bit as a pragmatic part to say, yes, colleagues, you're doing a lot already. If you look at our social space, for the past 10 years, Seplat has been really, really impactful in society, whether I Can See program we're driving down on that CSR or safe motherhood or the investment in education, health. There's so much we're doing already. So it's good to put that in context to say, look, we're doing a lot of what we're talking about here today about ESG, but it's about taking it to the next level if we really want to remain in business and what the world is asking for. So we leave a future for our grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren that is not above 2 degrees Celsius. So that's a bit of a practical, pragmatic point. So let me come back to the point Leslie mentioned. So on the social side, to put a bit of data just to follow on Eleanor's, finance people like to put numbers, so I'll just make it very high level. We're 206 million people today. We're heading towards 400 million people by 2040 or 50. It depends on whether we keep making babies at this rate or not. Nigeria will be about 400, 500 million people. It's going to be the biggest. The 2 big countries now, it's China, India, right? So we're going to the top quartile in terms of population. You know what that means? That's massive social issues. So today, 206 million, half of that doesn't have access to energy. Half of that they're not employed. Lots of very young people, over 100 million people are below age of 20 from what I hear. So we have a team that brings a lot of very social complex issue, which is the point at least that I made. When we go outside, and Africa is becoming a bit more strong in that advocacy to say, yes, we want a future world that's great, but we have a big social dilemma we'll have to manage. And that's is it a conundrum? What's the English word for it? So how do you manage it? We want a great environment, right? At the same time, we have this massive population issue, we have massive social issues. So that's a bit of a context and how the Seplat play in that space, and what does it mean for Nigeria? We're trying to do a lot within our space. We're doing a lot around how we impact in the environment, where we operate. We've got GMO, you've got lots of construct in place that allows us to try and work with our communities. A lot of them are contractors. We give a contract. They become empowered economically. We're doing lots of work around sustainability space, and we're also employing as much as we can. So that social place is one area which I think in the past 10 years, I think we've been quite impactful. But the demand is quite high. I mean, if you look at that 400 million people I talked about, part of them are going to be in where we operate, Delta, Imo, Edo State, Lagos, and more now. Hopefully, Akwa Ibom comes very state. My great state comes on board. So it's going to put a lot of pressure on us. So we've got to then look at this S in the sense that while we're trying to drive this whole environment compliance issue and reduce emission, net zero, at the same time we really have to take the bit about the social. And you can see from the new strategy, there's a bit of environmental care. There's also social investment featuring very strongly and in a strategy. And you all know Nigeria we're putting people more into poverty as against taking people out of poverty like the Chinese have done. So this S space for me is the biggest space, and that's why Africa has been very vocal. Even at the Glasgow 26, there's a whole lot of discussion where Africa is beginning to be a bit more vocal in terms of, look, we will go through energy transition, but we'll go through just transition, and our travel path isn't going to be dictated by the Western world, by Europe, America. We will chart our travel path, and we'll have to drive that economic prosperity, which then has a big impact on the social element of the ESG. So for Seplat in particular, I think this is something we take very, very seriously. If you look at employee value proposition, if you look at how we work with all our stakeholders, if you look at how we're very, all the policies here today, D&I is a key part of our commitment, and all those elements you have under the governance, and you can see how that's pivoted towards getting us to meet the expectation of all our investors can meet, so we can keep attracting finance to drive our development. So those are some early thoughts, colleagues. I'd like to hand back to Lester.
Thank you very much, Effie. Thank you, Effie. Thanks very much. And thanks for that historical perspective. I think that was very useful. Actually, it does link back to some of the thoughts we were talking about earlier on. If you think about the journey the industry's been on through an HSE focus, then a CSR focus, and now obviously more recently ESG. I mean, one way to think about that is think about each step of the way we're looking at a broader set of stakeholders in the business. So that's one, perhaps one way of linking those two ideas together. And thanks also for your comments around the S, just transition, which is often how we describe it for Nigeria. So thank you very much. I think we're on to the poll now. Debo, do you want to pick up from here?
Sure. Thank you very much, Alasdair. Let's put our hands together for Alasdair, for Effie, for Eleno, and also for Yetunde. So do we have the poll up now? And whilst we're waiting for the poll, Chiamaka. Okay, so we have the poll. So
we ran a poll during the panel session, and we want to see our response. So the first question we have here: what is your level of understanding of ESG?
That's right.
Yes. So 80% are saying, I have some basic knowledge.
That's right. It's increasing, and it's increasing. It's gone, wow, okay. So the second question says, what aspect of ESG is most visible in Seplat at the moment? And environmental issues seems to be taking the lead right now. You also have social issues that Effie has mentioned. You have governance issues. It's still environmental issues leading.
It's really great that everyone thinks that ESG is actually an issue in Seplat, and it's something we're considering. So, yes, it's a good one.
Yeah, you can see that the social is beginning to rise also.
Okay, the third question, please, technical team, take it down so we can quickly run through it. The third question we have here: what do you think presents the biggest challenge for Seplat's energy transition agenda? And
83%.
Yes, are saying meeting our decarbonization flares our target in 2024. That's 2024, yes. And 23% are saying building a formidable and viable renewable energy business. I assume that's a business. The fourth question we have here: can you identify some of the enablers for ESG management in Seplat? So we had a couple of them. And I think your response should be a mix of all of them. Yes, of the enablers. So we have GHG emissions calculator. The second one,
sustainability software, energy transition modular, ESG steering committee, ESG champion, and you have a combination of A, B, C, D, taking 53% right now. So a lot of people believe that the emissions calculation is very important. So the software. Okay.
Yes, and so quickly run down to the fifth question just to finalize and end this. ESG is primarily to satisfy banks and investors only.
Beautiful. 81% disagree. So ESG, and I think that's a good place to clap for ourselves. So essentially, we all adept, and we all know that ESG is not what we do; it's who we are and what we are becoming better at doing. Yeah. Excellent.
So we've been asked to stop the poll here. So we do not take too much of time.
Exactly.
But we thank you all for participating.
I think it's also a good a good opportunity to put our hands together for those that participated once more.
Yes.
And also to put our hands together for our panelists. Okay. Okay. So in the interest of time, we're gonna I'm being told that we might take some more questions, but right now we need to take the message from the chairman in person of Dr. ABC Ojiako.
Greetings, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to welcome you to today's event, the celebration of ESG Day in Seplat Energy PLC. Always my delight to interact with you, and this occasion is a very special one. And the theme of today is collaborating for sustainability. Frankly, in Seplat, we have been at the forefront of making sure that every business we do, everything we do endures. And that is why we have all embraced the ESG and sustainability narrative as the real instrument for driving and determining business growth. You will agree with me that the reason why we changed our name from Seplat Petroleum to Seplat Energy PLC is because in Seplat we always are leaders when it comes to making sure that we adapt to the changes that goes with businesses. That is why in the business environment where we operate, ESG, environment, social and governance have continuously been the real drivers of businesses. In Seplat, right from the beginning, we took environmental stewardship as a cardinal point in our business to make sure that we do not leave our environment worse than we've ever met it. In terms of socials, we have taken a very bold step in making sure that in our company, every stakeholder, be it our employees, be it our communities, be it all the stakeholders we interact with, make sure that we do business and collaborate with them in a win-win manner. In terms of governance, everything that has to do with how our business is governed has been well taken care of. And that is why Seplat has become the company that has led the way in various aspects of our business. It is for this reason that this company remains the number one and leader in aspects of business governance. But then coming back to the real impact of ESG and sustainability and the way we have used this to repurpose our company to strengthen our vision and mission in the way we do business, Seplat has therefore remained committed to being the leaders in energy transition in Nigeria. And I give you some examples. Apart from the fact that we've changed our names, you have seen that we have made very bold steps in the way and manner we do business. We'll continue to play, of course, in the fossil fuel business because we believe that energy transition is really about balancing the provision of affordable and reliable energy to society with, of course, maintaining carbon neutrality. So to be able to do this, we will make sure that our carbon footprint and the carbon and greenhouse emission in the way we do business is drastically reduced. We'll also make sure, particularly in driving our midstream business, that we take energy in totality. We take energy, as we have continuously said, from gas to power, to as well as energy provision in homes. Our LPG home penetration is a cardinal point. It is one area where we take care of environment, making sure that the energy provision in the homes is done in a clean and healthier way than what it is today, using firewood. And in the process, we protect the environment, we protect our forests. Recently, Seplat has launched what we call the Tree for Life. This is one of our contributions to making sure that the environment is taken care of in terms of carbon and greenhouse emissions. And obviously, in terms of the society we are in, we make sure that the social aspect is well taken care of. When we talk about gas to power, it is because we strongly believe that once we provide reliable and affordable energy to society, this will drive prosperity, it will fire the small and medium scale industries, there will be job creation and the rest of it. This is one strong area we like to prioritize society and socials in terms of ESG. In terms of governance, Seplat has remained a leader and will continue to be the champion of diversification, especially in gender aspects, and of course we have also made sure that inclusiveness and making sure that every aspect of energy transition is just. And for this reason, I believe that ESG Day in Seplat will continue to reinforce what we believe in, and that is that once we want our business to be sustained and grow for a very long term, ESG will remain at the facets of every aspect of it. Thank you very much, and I wish you the very best as you conclude the celebrations of today. Thank you.
Okay, so we will shortly be moving to the next segment of today's panel session, but I'm told that we have one more comment or two from Effie.
Let me just listen working. Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Clearly.
So there was only a point, and when we had this for this session, there was a point which Lester I didn't mention. I think I probably skipped it. I thought we were going to come back around to look at how the strategy we just heard about how we're taking investment decision and choice we're making to shape that future. I think if you look at the mobile producing Nigeria Limited acquisition on the MPNU, you can see how that nicely fits with our upstream, the three pillars Roger talked about, and that's the model you still see that we'll still be doing a lot of investment in the upstream pillar, which is where we still have to generate lots of cash. That cash then goes into funding the pillar 2. So the Exxon, the mobile producing Nigeria, the MPNU asset has a lot of gas as well. So while we're driving capital investment into the oil to generate cash, then that cash goes in to now help develop the gas sector. Like you heard even from the chairman, gas is something Seplat has been quite impactful on in terms of the fall strategy. We have massive gas resource base there, which could go into local domestic gas market, FLNG export. So that way we're then driving pillar 2, and then the top pillar is around new energy. And the essence of this whole loop in terms of how we take decision is not just nice talk like Roger said or slides. It's actually the decisions we're making, and that has a massive impact in terms of social investment going forward, in terms of drive sustainability, in terms of employment, in terms of building infrastructure, and addressing a lot of the gap potential around areas like capacity building, the educational sector. We talked about health, and all the areas which Seplat has done a lot well in terms of where we've been having our business in the past. So that for me is just to put that. You can see MPNU in the context of the new strategy and how that's going to drive. And one last point for me is the world has come to that realization. There's nothing bad in producing oil, right? The issue is how do we drive down emissions? We want to produce the oil in such a way that there are no emissions. And the law initiative, they talked about the whole decarbonization agenda. A lot of companies are looking at how can you take gas into reservoir where you store it like CCUS, so carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration. There's so many initiatives. So for us, colleagues, is how do we keep driving that space, and how do we drive the emissions, produce the oil in a very efficient way, and we'll have enough cash to now power pillar 2 and pillar 3. I just wanted to add that point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Put your hands together for the panelists. Put your hands together for the panelists once again.
Together for them.
And you can see how passionately Effie has spoken, Lester, Eleanor, Yetunde, and it dovetails into the next segment. And at this segment, you'll be seeing more of the tone from the top. The chairman has set the stage for the directors, and you will be hearing a lot more from in this panel session. You'll be hearing and having the opportunity, of course, to also see some of our independent non-executive directors. So, Chiamaka?
Yes, okay. Like he has said, we have our board members here who would be members of this panel. To moderate this session, we have Jane Stevenson, who is the founding director of JS Global Limited, and the panelists. The first person we have here, Natalie.
Madam Natalie Delapam. Yeah, exactly. We have Mr. Bello Rabiu, and we also have Dr. Emma Fitzgerald. But put your hands together for Jane Stevenson, who will be anchoring this, who is the moderator for this session. Let's put our hands together for her as she comes up virtually. Thank you. And whilst we're waiting for that, Chiamaka, quite a number of words that jump out here. And you can see them in the square boxes. The first one that jumps out to me is the word responsibility.
Yes, cross-functional responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's not just a one department's responsibility. SCM, HR, production, operations, everybody has to be in on achieving a sustainable business for all of Seplat.
Yeah, that's very correct. Of course, and once again, we're waiting on we're waiting to have them online. Once we have the panelists on board and online, we would take the backstage. But okay, so there you have them. Okay, so thank you so much, Jane. You now have the virtual lectern, and we now hand over. Please, let's put our hands together for Jane Stevenson. as she commences the moderation of this session. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. It's great to be with you all today, although we are obviously joining, but it looks like a great crowd in the room there. I have got three terrific panelists. We're going to dive in a little bit deeper, I think, to follow on from some of the really good content we've already been able to listen to. We've obviously had some terrific insights from very senior end of the business, but also that really good vox pop start to the day, where we were able to hear from a lot of different people across different functions, different parts of the business. So our plan for this 30 minutes is going to be, I'm going to introduce our three panelists. They bring different perspectives and different areas of really deep expertise in ESG and sustainability, and of course have a true focus on Seplat Energy and how that works for the business. So a quick introduction of all three panelists, and then I'm going to put some questions to them and let them give us some of their insights and their expertise to help us understand more about Seplat's approach to this really vital subject for the business. So I'm going to start by introducing Emma. Emma Fitzgerald is a seasoned executive in energy and water. She has hands-on experience through many years of working at Shell, from building lubricants business in China to running its global retail network. And from 2007 to 2010, she was accountable for Shell's downstream strategy, playing a key role in reshaping their strategic approach to renewables. She then moved into gas distribution and water and waste networks for the UK's national energy grid and for a major UK water company, where she successfully positioned them as sustainability thought leaders in their industries. She has most recently served as CEO of Puma Energy International, which is a global energy company focused on high potential developing markets in Africa, Asia, and Central America. She joined the Seplat board last year, so is a new recruit to the business. We also have Natalie Delapalme, a member of the Seplat board since 2019. She's also an independent director of the French oil and gas exploration and production company Morel et Prom, and they have very long operational experience, especially in Africa and Latin America. Natalie is also an executive director of the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, an African foundation established in 2006 with one focus: the critical importance of governance and leadership in Africa. And finally, we have Bello. Bello Rabiu is an extremely experienced petroleum engineer, brings 30 years of expertise in the exploration and production industry in Nigeria. He has a master's degree in petroleum engineering from Imperial College London, but is also a graduate of the prestigious Wharton Executive Development Program from the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia in USA, and of the leading global business program from Harvard Business School. Bello is able to combine his deep understanding of technical operations with extensive commercial and fiscal knowledge and strategic insight. Before joining Seplat, he was with the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation for 28 years, becoming their chief operating officer and group executive director of the upstream business unit. So he brings a huge amount of knowledge and expertise. He now sits on the Seplat Energy board as an independent non-executive director. So that's our panel today. We've got, as I say, enormous amounts of knowledge and expertise to draw on. We're going to now move into some very specific questions. And I'm very conscious of the fact we've only got 30 minutes for this panel. So I'm going to ask my panelists to try and keep to giving us 5 minutes on this particular part of the session. So I'd really like to start with Emma. Emma, as the newest addition to the Seplat Energy Board, we'd love to know actually what drew you into this opportunity. And from your perspective, what do you see as the really key issues we should be focusing on now?
Thank you, Jane, and thanks everybody for joining today. I'm very excited actually that we're having a company-wide conversation about the importance of ESG and how Seplat is really playing its part in driving the energy transition in Nigeria. And that's really the hook to why I was really keen to join the Seplat Energy board. Jane has very kindly sort of outlined a little bit about my personal and professional experience in this area. And the red thread that runs through my whole career is that I've always wanted to be part of businesses that are providing essential services so that I can help people to effectively have choices in their life and the way that they want to live their life. That's my sort of personal purpose. So whether that's with Shell through transportation mobility, or whether that's with water and waste and gas as energy, and then more recently with Puma Energy. And it was with Puma that I actually really got deeply immersed in Africa and the just transition in Africa. So when I stepped down as CEO of Puma Energy a year ago, I was looking for an opportunity to play my part in continuing to try and support that just transition. And my personal belief is that Nigeria is such a critical part of Africa and Africa's energy transition that I wanted to find a way to be part of it. And Seplat has such an incredibly important role in driving that transition, and has the opportunity to do so because of the trust that we've built, our stakeholders and our communities. So it's a genuine privilege to be allowed to have the opportunity to support you and to support us all to try and make that transition. In terms of the sorts of the second part of Jane's question, which was, what are the issues that we face? You'll probably have a feel from my background that I've spent most of my career running businesses. So there's been an element of strategy to that in terms of finding a clear direction. A big part of what I've been doing is helping teams to deliver concretely against that vision. And I think our biggest opportunity and challenge as Seplat now is bringing alive very coherently and concretely our plans. And that means we have to translate strategy into action. And we have to build the trust of our stakeholders and our colleagues that it is happening and that we are actually managing to deliver against all of our goals, and that we can then actually build momentum behind what we're trying to do. I think a big part of the panel today and some of the conversations that you will have after this event need to be around how we can all individually contribute to making that happen. Because I think it was mentioned by Effie and others, everybody across the organisation has a part to play in making sure that we are delivering on what we say we will and achieving our purpose to bring energy to Nigeria and to Nigeria's people. So with that, I'm going to hand back to you, Jane, and give you a bit more time back, I hope.
Emma, thank you. That's really helpful. I think what I gained from that is a very strong focus on the just transition, and also trust in the business, its ability, led by its people, to really push that forward. I think your point on bringing the plans alive is a particularly appropriate one, and actually rather sums up the whole of this day in terms of bringing ESG to life and collaborating for sustainability. So with that, I'd like to move on to Natalie now. Natalie, you've been with Seplat Energy for somewhat longer than Emma, and you've been able to see how the developments have changed up to this point in terms of its approach to sustainability and ESG. But you also bring a major global perspective and have real insights into Africa-specific challenges and governance issues. So I think it would be really helpful for us to understand from your side of this, from your opinion, what does work and also what doesn't work in this context.
Thank you very much, Jane, and I'm conscious of time, so I'll try to be very brief, and I'll come back later, maybe in your second part of on the panel on this energy transition challenge, which is very specific to Africa. Looking back at indeed the years I have already done with Seplat, and I'm just here to say again how extremely proud I am of this, and it has been absolutely a key word. I would say that I see 3 key milestones on this challenging road of Seplat being born not that long ago, and now being indeed a very impressive leading African energy company. The first one, and quite a lot of people have already talked about this, that this is key, is this transition from being Seplat Petroleum to Seplat Energy. The second point is the embedding of ESG as a key component to our business strategy, not just a box to be ticked. And the third is monitoring. The fact that we have introduced recently the importance of data to be able to monitor that we are effectively implementing what we have committed to, which is something that Emma just underlined. I think it's a very impressive road, of which I think that we, but I would say first of all you as Seplat staff, wherever you are and whatever you do, can be extremely proud, because this only happened through, by, and thanks to you. And this I would be probably my first point, which is about pride, ownership, and responsibility. Individual responsibility, individual pride, individual ownership, individual responsibility. And this means indeed that all of us at whatever level are an active part of this strategy. Once again, it's not only a box to be ticked in the annual report or a specific whim of the board, it's a recipe for the success of our business. The second point is the importance of monitoring our progress, which is also a big step forward. And this is one of the things we are specifically working on when we are talking about governance at the Mo Ibrahim Foundation, or in any other areas where we talk about governance today. Governance is a core component of success. It's not just a goal to achieve. And we need to be able to have data to monitor closely the implementation of our commitments, because we need to know where we are coming from, what we are aiming at, and whether we are going there effectively and efficiently. So it's not just words. I think I will stop there, Jane, and leave the rest for the second part of your panel, for the sake of time. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Natalie. Again, very insightful, and I think picking up particularly on your last point, the knowing where we are and also the understanding where we're going is absolutely vital in really driving this through the business. And again, like so many people today have made the very valid point that it's all about the people. It's all about being a people-led initiative. And again, having an ESG, and a whole company ESG day is such a motivational and actually very important moment in time for a business that takes ESG seriously. So I'd like to move on now to Bello. Bello, you're speaking for all the engineers and the technicians in the company. These are people who will be interpreting the strategy and turning it into an operational action. So I think what I'd like to put to you is, can you actually bring the reality of this to life for us? What has to happen on the ground? And also, I did notice at the beginning of the event in the chat, there was one question which I jotted down at the time. And that question was, or rather it was a statement, and the statement was, I hope those in the field are recognized too. And that really resonated with me, knowing that we would have Bello on the panel today. So your insights would be extremely helpful for all of those people out on the operational sites. Bello, are you with us?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm now unmuted. Thank you so much, and very good afternoon to all. I'm very excited to be part of this session, and maybe to start with what you said last, that I was also hoping that all the operators outside in the field are actually connected to this teamwork that I really see as very collaborative, and not to really also reposition Seplat to where we really wanted it to be. Well, in terms of making the strategy happen or translating the strategy into action, I think a lot has done by this Shoma group that actually showed how people see ESG, how they understand it, and how they think we are actually handling it from the board side. I think it is important, maybe just as an overview, to really understand our industry, the challenges of the industry, and what we are trying to really achieve in terms of survival, because we're actually in a survival mode now as an industry. And first of all, I think we need to understand that the industry itself is an extractive one. It's an industry that has a lot to do with nature, a lot to do with the earth, both subsurface and on the surface. We look for oil wherever it is in the world, deep in the sea, on the shore, outside, and everywhere that we think we can get it. So the key issue is for us to really understand where we are. As an industry, we must not just stay and be looking at the profitability of the industry. We must also look at the environment and the people that we deal with. And when I say people, I mean every stakeholder, from the staff to the communities to the shareholders to the bankers. And we can see clearly that it's something that involves a lot of investment. And therefore, we must also understand how to get that money and what we need to do to satisfy those who own the money. Apart from the fact that we also have to look at the fact that we are a technology-driven industry. Whatever we do in making oil and gas or producing oil and gas in usable form for people to use must be done sensibly and with responsibility. So I think that's the key around the ESG, and that's what I think we need to let the staff understand and collaborate in making that happen. Clearly, again, we are now in a very short period in the last 5 or 6 years. We are now focusing on the key issue of carbon emission. We have seen the real issue of climate, and it has been agreed basically by consensus globally that carbon emission is one of the main issues, is one of the main contributors to the climate change. And therefore, we must do whatever we can to really address it. So clearly, and I am happy that at least the staff, the management are all aligned to see that happen. Clearly, like AP said, if we can reduce 90% of our carbon emissions through the gas clearing initiative that we are putting in place, and we can get it before 2025, I believe really Septa will put his name in gold. So actually operationalizing the ESG and making staff really make that our strategy on the ground happen is to basically understand it, measure it, report it, and show our relationship with others in terms of where they are. And I believe based on what has happened so far, Seplat have actually shown that it's actually leading Nigerian oil and gas industry or energy industry in making that happen. Let me stop here for the next round of questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Bello. I think that was particularly helpful. And again, your last point in terms of we need to understand what we're doing and how it impacts the environment. And I think just picking up on something you started with is operating respectfully of where we are in the world and what environment we are affecting by our activities and operations. And then understanding, measuring, managing, and Seplat's mission, which will be to lead the just energy transition in Nigeria, which I think everyone has given us a huge amount of understanding in how important that is for the business. So we're going to move on to the next part of the panel now. Before I go into some more questions, though, just to point out, we will have another poll at the end of this session. There will be some questions coming up for all of our audience to respond to, which I think will be shown as we come to the end in Alistair's panel, and will help us to gather some information again about how our audience are responding to the information we're giving them and how they feel about the importance of ESG and sustainability issues to the business. So I think everybody on the panel has given us a really good and insightful snapshot of where Seplat Energy is now and sort of thinking behind what's taken us to this point. And of course, this ESG Day is a real milestone in the company's adoption of this as a strategic pillar driving everything it does. I think now what would be helpful is if we look to the future. Emma, I'm just to go back to you. You've articulated how you see the positive changes which have been achieved by Seplat up to now. But, you know, can you look into the future for us? Can you do a little bit of crystal ball gazing? What needs to happen next?
It needs to be unmuted, please. Emma. Admin, please unmute Emma.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you, Jay. Sorry. So I was focusing on trying to get unmuted there, but I think you were asking me about what needs to happen looking to the future. Is that a fair summation of your question?
Absolutely. Let's have a look through your crystal ball into the future.
Okay. So I'm going to reinforce a message that I think has come through quite clearly up front from Bello, Natalie, and myself, which is this transition for Seplat needs to be people-led. And every single contribution that everybody across the organisation makes is going to make a difference and to help us to achieve our goals. In terms of what needs to happen next, it is all very much about being clear on what it is that we need to do. I love Bello's words, operating responsibly and respectfully to be able to achieve it. And also making sure that we're collaborating together because we can't do this on our own. In terms of the specifics that I think are going to be critical to try and bring that alive a little, we've already done a huge amount of work as Seplat, which I believe we can be very proud of in terms of the work we've done with our communities around ESG. And we need to build on that because that's a key basis of the trust that we have with those communities and stakeholders. Equally, we need to make sure, I think it was Effie who said that we need to make sure that we are operating our oil and our gas assets as effectively and efficiently and as responsibly as we can in order to be able to act as a platform for our cash generation and our transition activities. We also need to make sure that we are delivering on our flaring goal. I think it was Bella who mentioned that, and that is an absolutely critical activity for us to drive our emissions reductions. And then the other element for me, which is going to be a voyage of discovery for us, I think, is we have made a clear set of commitments that we wish to move into our Pillar 3 activities, our renewables projects. And we need to make sure that we really are clear on where we're going to play in that space as Seplat, and how we're going to support some of the other enabling infrastructure in Nigeria to help us to actually be able to connect the electricity that's generated from the projects to the communities that need it. Now, this is going to be a more medium-term goal for me, I think, because it's quite a complex area. So for colleagues who are listening into this, there will be some people who are working on that. But for the majority of the organisation, it's going to be about making sure that we are running our existing assets flawlessly, to build the right credibility and reputation to be able to enable us to play our part in driving that just transition. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Jane.
Emma, that's fantastic. Thank you. And actually really helpfully leads me straight into my question to Natalie next, which is, how do you see the E, S and G all working in harmony to create better outcomes, particularly in terms of the oil and gas energy transition, which is often intertwined with jobs, with regional differences, and with energy resilience, adding new elements to the transition, and particularly the transition in Africa and the global south, which has its own significant challenges. I'm hoping, Natalie, that you can help put some light into the corners of these particular issues.
Thank you very much, Jane. I think the key point here would be to say that E, S, and G are not only need to work in harmony, but indeed need to work in a key interactive way. I mean, they are interactive goals. I mean, we can't consider working on them in silos. They are not counteracting with each other, which is sometimes what appears, but they are, on the contrary, deeply interlinked. If I take governance to begin with, it's not a separate goal in itself. It's a key component, and I would say recipe for business success. And here correlations are absolutely obvious. Governance is about delivery, it's about the ability to deliver and the way you deliver. So it's not something that's, once again, it's like a box to be ticked in order to comply to whatever is requested. It's really something that must be a key component of any sector of our business. I think this is the first important point. The second point is coming back indeed to our very own specificity as an African energy company. I think this has been underlined by almost all speakers up to now. We are a company producing energy. Now, in the current conversation and concern about climate crisis, I prefer climate crisis to climate change. This makes, for any company operating in the oil or in the energy sector, a very challenging environment with many stakeholders, and this has been highlighted earlier on, including and namely potential investors, focusing on environmental issues. This is a general characteristic for the oil and gas sector, but it's all the more compelling for Africa because we are also an African company, and this gives us a specific responsibility. We can talk, and everybody talk about energy transition, but it's very difficult to talk about energy transition when you don't have access to energy to begin with. And this is Africa's specific challenge, which probably hasn't been, and is still not taken into account enough. We've seen that in the, I would say, struggle that followed COP26 decision and debates. Energy transition again, maybe, but first of all, access to energy for all. We are currently in a situation where the African continent is the less contributor, but also probably the most hit continent, while still on a developing path in which access to energy is absolutely key to health, to education, to business, to employment, to jobs for young people, which is the key challenge of the African continent. So here we immediately see the very close link between S and E. We are currently operating on a continent where more than 600 million people don't have access to energy. 600 million people is twice US population. It's 1.3 European population. And where more than 900 people don't have access to clean cooking fuels, which means immediate challenges for health. So more than ever, this points to the key role, and I would say the key responsibility, which is a key word that has been used by many of our speakers up to now, the key responsibility of an African energy company. This is our specific challenge, ensuring access to energy for all, to an energy that's both accessible and affordable, but of course, as much as possible, also sustainable. And I would add here, if you allow me, a last point, which is when we are coming to these environment challenges, we need to make sure, because we are ahead of the curve. As a company, we are a leading company, and we can show that we are not only preventing damage, specifically flaring gas, for example, which has been mentioned several times, but also considering how to contribute proactively to environment preservation. I stop there because I have no more voice and time is up. These were my main point. Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Natalie, thank you. Very helpful. And I think, you know, sort of trying to capture that in one phrase, I think what you're saying is we've got to stop talking the talk and start walking the walk,
exactly.
Getting it to happen. And I think, again, that takes me very neatly to Bello. It would be very good just to get one or two thoughts from you on this particular aspect, Bello, and I am also conscious of the fact we're coming close to the end of our time, but I think we'd love some insights from your perspective.
Thank you very much, Jane. Again, just to summarize that, if we look at the two key issues, apart from the governance, which obviously has been the main issue, just trying to make money out of the business, but the two issues of social and environmental, I think it's important to understand what does it mean to have a environmentally responsible company. And to that, I think Seplat has done very well. One of the two things that they do is actually to seek lower greenhouse gas emission, which we are trying to do, and we are doing very well. We're also trying to ensure that we use renewable energy in our business. And I think even trying to reduce the consumption of diesel and converting some of our generators to use power from solar is a very good initiative that I think environmentally you can say Seplat is responsibly working towards environmental sustainability. On a social angle, I think any company that demonstrates dedication to various philanthropic causes like what Seplat is doing is very, very important. And I think it's important to know that, again, Seplat is number one in that direction. We are very close to our environmental environment. We are close to the people that we operate within. And I think that respect and confidence that has been built has to be sustained. I just have to really continue to look at it at that level. Again, when you go back to work and you see flaring going on, you should see it not only as waste sources, but also as damage into the environment. Let us see what we can do to really eliminate that as soon as we can. Then supporting and encouraging diversity is very important as one of the things that a socially responsible company does. And that has to be considered by all staff. I think we should collaborate to ensure that we have and we support and we encourage diversity in our operations and in our dealings with all ourselves. We should also look at policies to protect against social issues like such as injustices, sexual harassment, bullying, and all those sort of things that actually doesn't make sense in the modern world. So I think that's another issue that we need to look at, and I think Seplat is doing very well on that as well. Again, having ethical supply chain is important, and that's why we deal with people to ensure that we don't employ underage people, we don't employ corrupt people, we don't actually have corrupt contractors in the system. We have zero tolerance for corruption, and all these issues also make contribution to actually let people understand what the company stands for. I think these two things, responsibly, environmentally responsible and socially responsible company, when you combine it with proper corporate governance, is really what ESG is all about. And I think that's what the staff, the management, and the board needs to really work together, collaborate, and ensure we implement. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Bello. Really helpful and I think very insightful. So I'm very aware we're sort of pretty well at the end of our time for this panel, but I would like to pose one final question to each of the panelists. And I think actually our hope is that at the end of this, perhaps at this panel, but particularly at the end of the whole of this ESG event, if the audience leaves with a real sense of inspiration, but an understanding that there's a lot to do, but also equipped with something tangible that helps drive this change and shows that there's real commitment to achieving all of those targets that we've been discussing. So with that in mind, I have got this one final question for each of you. Could you give us one concrete action that every member of Seplat Energy could take as they go back to their desk after today and get back to the day job? And I'm going to go back in the opposite direction. So let's start with you on that one.
Thank you so much, Jen. And I think it's a very interesting question that I think we need really to look at and answer. I believe if we are talking of one concrete action that every member of Seplat family should from today adopt is what they call the triple bottom line. I think not every business is looking at the bottom line as profitability. Clearly, based on what we have seen and what is going on in the ESG world, we need to look at the other two issues. And these are the people and the planet. So whatever we do, whatever member writing to justify any project, to actually agree, to get consent to do anything, we should look at the people, the planet, as well as the profitability. That's what I think we need to go home with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bello. And Natalie?
Yes, thank you, Jane. I mean, I would say it's a frame of mind. Do not consider ESG as an additional constraint that has been invented by some people working in faraway offices who don't know about the business, but on the contrary, as a key core component of the success of our business and of the competitivity of our company. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Emma.
Okay, so I'm going to say I'd encourage every single person listening to this call to consider that ESG and operating responsibly is part of the DNA of our company of the future. And my advice would be go away from today, think personally about the specific action that you're going to take that's going to help us on our journey. Share that with your colleagues and ask for help to make sure that you deliver it. And then let's celebrate the successes as we go together. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think those are all really superb ideas and thoughts to take away with us. So with that, I think the panel, we're going to close this panel. I'll hand back to the compares. And thank you to all my panelists for being so honest and so insightful for us today.
Thanks to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jane. Great job.
Very good. Thank you.
Let's put our hands together once again for the panelists. We thank you so much for your time. Wow. So much has been said today.
Yes, so
Talking
much.
about takeaways. We've been asked to, as we go back, we're not going yet, to go consider the triple bottom line: people, planet, profitability. Okay, so we're going to run the poll now. We're going to run the second set of polls. And okay, so there you go.
Okay, the first question we have there: climate change is a critically important issue for Nigeria and the world. 100% agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Second question: how important do you think ESG and sustainability issues are for Seplat Energy? 100% are saying very important. Yes. The third question: good ESG performance will boost Seplat's share value. Well, we have some people who think they're neutral, and some people agree with this statement.
96%.
Yeah. So, can you take the fourth question?
Is it possible for Seplat to continue a fossil fuel business and become an ESG champion at the same time? 88% say yes. So you have 12% saying no, and the polls are still going on. Number 5.
Number 5, it is clear to me what my role is in achieving Seplat's ESG objectives. Some people are saying they're not so sure. Why? We have about 88% saying, yes, I know what my role is. I believe some of the things you're supposed to do were highlighted during the panel session. And you know, today is still going on. And I believe you will leave this ESG day with clarity on what your rules are.
Exactly. And the poll is still going on, we believe. That the poll is still going on. Okay, so now the poll is over. Wow, let's put our hands together for our participants. And whilst we're gonna move right now we're gonna have a short video clip, and it's the director's voice pops. And for the benefit of those who are still not sure what our collective and individual responsibilities are, we have quite a number of things written down here. It's a people-led initiative. The ESG drive and culture is a people-led initiative. So I've got a part to play, and
I have got a part to play as well.
Exactly. I mean,
we're legal. I mean, HSC. We have HR here. We have finance here.
Absolutely.
We have supply chain management. So we all have a role to play in achieving our ESG objective for the company.
Absolutely, and it's so interesting the way the panelist has been so composed. It didn't just feature members of the senior leadership team alone. You also had members of the board. You had the executive directors. You had the independent non-executive directors, and you also had the non-independent executive directors.
Yeah.
And I mean, to all our beautiful audience also seated here, and those virtual, I think we should do some shout out to those at the locations. What do you think?
Yes, I think so as well. If we have videos or of people who are online, can we have them, the technical team? There's something I want to add to all we've been saying about collaboration. Collaboration is indeed the foundation for success. Yeah. You know, when we all work together towards achieving a common goal, we unleash that potential. So that's one thing we should all take home from here, or deliver on our ESG objectives and targets that we have set for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You're correct. Okay, so now we'll now turn to our screens as we have the director's voice pops.
It's quite interesting. I think the world is really focused these days on sustainability. Sustainability in terms of the environment, sustainability in terms of our impact on the social, in terms of our connection to society we live in, and of course governance. These concepts have been highlighted more from the recent medical emergency we had in the whole world. The world is clearly interested in how businesses are run and how business has to make a contribution to the concept of sustainability. The oil and gas industry, in terms of the process and in terms of the output, the products, the utilization of our products, and they contribute heavily in terms of environmental pollution. More importantly, the whole world believe the oil and gas industry, have more to do in terms of reduction in environmental pollution. So apart from other businesses, the environmental component, the environment component of ESG is key to our business. On the social side as well, in terms of responsibility to society, in the environment that we function is of importance as well. And of course, governance, being the process of administering the whole enterprise, help to sustain the institutions and processes put in place to sustain the ESG aspect or the ES aspect of ESG. So ESG becomes very, very key to the sector and industry that we work in.
ESG means environmental, social, and governance. When we look at ESG, we look at a set of framework that is used for companies to assess their sustainability in terms of their operations. When companies operate, they want to do that to ensure that their impact in the environment, whether it be the social needs of their host community or their stakeholders, is done in the proper way to create value. So ESG tries to make sure that this is done in a sustainable way. And another thing important to note, because ESG is gaining a lot of traction globally. Companies are being, measured by their ESG standards. So investors would want to invest in companies if they know that they have a good ESG score. So it is very important that companies really focus on making sure that the ESG objectives are impacting the way they operate in the environment. Seplat on its own has imbibed a set of ESG objectives, whether it be the sustainable goals that came from the UN. So very important that in our dealings as employees that we collaborate. Collaboration is a very strong theme in ESG, because when we collaborate, we create teamwork efficiency, and teamwork efficiency creates agility. So agility tells on the performance of an organization.
ESG, simply put, is the acronym for environmental, social, and governance. In fact, investors attach importance to this And that is why some refer to it as a socially responsible investment criteria, because it demonstrates an opportunity to evaluate whether an organization's value system aligns with our personal values. So for us in Seplat, we take it very, very seriously because it provides an opportunity for us to showcase in a transparent manner how we carry out our business and conduct our business in support with the host communities and all other stakeholders. When we talk about sustainability, I will approach it from actually 3 perspectives. And that's another ways of even looking at the ESG. Some people call it planet, people, and places. When we talk about the planet, we have only one environment, one planet, and we need to make sure that we contribute our quota towards a safe existence and continuation of the planet. And what do I mean by that? Seplat as an organization has embarked on various initiatives aimed at reducing our environmental impact. For example, our flare-out projects, our solarization efforts, and also reduction of fugitive emissions, and so on and so forth. All these require that we as Seplat employee need to play our part towards actualization of these initiatives so that we can reduce our environmental footprints. The second part, which is the people, that speaks to you and myself, in that we need to equally do our own part by making sure that we pay attention to what we consume. We need to reduce our energy consumption, our water consumption. Where practically possible, we reduce our waste by promoting the concept of reuse, reduce, and recycle. And the last element is on places. The places where we operate, our host, we already enjoy good relationship with them. Through various initiatives that we are doing, we need to continuously build and nurture the relationship.
Okay, very insightful video. I believe we picked up 1 or 2 things from there. We've had 2 panel sessions so far. The very first one we had was on the topic, what does ESG mean for Seplat? And the second one we had was a tune from the top on placing ESG at the heart of Seplat's business. Now we're going to have a very powerful fireside chat that will be led by our amazing Florence Nwabweze, who's here. She's going to be moderating this session. Florence, you have the floor. It is going to be on practicing or practices what replicating from ESG champions.
Let's put our hands together.
Let's put our hands together for her.
For her, as she introduced the panelists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here to co-facilitate this fireside chat with my colleagues. I have Amechi Ngogbe here. Amechi is the production and operations manager. We also have online Eduje Macaulay from the gas team and Brian Marcos from the they are there on the online from finance in London. Now, quite a lot has been said about ESG and, you know, COVID. I know we keep hearing about COVID, but something that COVID brought to the fore was the fact that the stopping operations and the fact that most industries were pretty much out of operation for some time brought a certain aspect of ESG to fore, which was environmental protection. And so that kind of galvanized lots of conversations around ESG, which is why we'll now have the conversations coming up from COP26. But we'll get into that in a bit. 83% of the respondents to one of the polls mentioned that they had pretty good knowledge of ESG. And this fireside chat is a good opportunity for us to learn more. If you see, it has been a common thread running through this session, and that has been the thread of collective responsibility. And so for us to know what we need, for us to take on that responsibility effectively, we need to understand and know what it is we want to do. And to do that, to further deepen our knowledge on ESG matters, we have Massimo Bettanin. Permit me to read out his profile. So Massimo joined EY in June 2021 to lead the sustainability and climate change practice in Romania. His career summed up more than 25 years of experience in a wide range of sustainability, environmental, health and safety management, compliance, and other performance-related activities and projects. So thanks to a broad field experience, he's built up quite a lot of knowledge in key ESG matters across several industries, ranging from the oil and gas, cement, pulp and paper, and manufacturing. As a consultant, he has worked for several multinational companies across Italy, France, Spain, Libya, South Africa, and Nigeria. And the last, I think, was where he was a group chief HSSE and sustainability officer in Dangote, where we worked together at the same time. Massimo, you are welcome to the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Florence. Nice to see you again.
Absolutely. Nice to see you too, Massimo. I'm really happy to see you on this platform. I know you took the ESG, you took the environmental events at Dangote to a great height, particularly as they were building their industry. But that's not the conversation for today. That's important because it's also deepened your knowledge of ESG matters, not just outside Nigeria, so not just around the world, but also in Nigeria, because we also have to be really practical about some of the issues that are coming out around ESG. And so the first question for you, Massimo, is why should Seplat take ESG seriously? Thank you.
Thanks, Florence. I prepare also, if you want, I prepare a couple of slides. If you allow me to share, maybe would that be okay? I cannot share. Oh, I can talk then. So I think many speakers before me already mentioned why ESG is important, I think. Oh, thank you very much. Here we go. So the next one, please. So, and I would like to start maybe to take over from what Eleanor, I think, said before. And I just want to show this. This is the one of the rating agency, the MSCI, which keep track of this index. Is called Emerging Markets ESG Leadership Index, which provides exposure to those companies that have a strong environmental, social, and governance performance. As you can see here in the emerging markets, those companies, which is the blue line, you can see, in terms of gross profit, they constantly or consistently perform much better than their peers in the same index. And this performance increase, the gap, as you can see, increase over time. And this is confirmed what Eleanor and other speakers said before, is becoming more and more important for, that's why I explained, why for many investors, good ESG performance are important. But give me just a minute, because this is almost, I think you know now this, but based on what they said before. For me, what is important is to, and back to your question, why is it important for a company like Seplat? So the short answer is this graph. We create value. And apparently, we create more and more value than other, let's say, companies who have a lower ESG performance. But the question is, why do this company deliver more value? Why they deliver more profit? And I think we can say that good company that have a good ESG performance usually have they are very good in identifying and let's say in understanding the environmental and social impacts. Just think about Seplat. You mentioned before, as an oil and gas company, you can have significant environmental and social impacts, and they're also good in assessing the risk that can result from a poor management of these impacts. So this is the first element. The second element is that good the company which have a good ESG performance usually are very good in identifying, engaging, and listening their stakeholders. Again, and as said before, not just clearly the host communities, which clearly it's one of the most important stakeholders, but let's say all the relevant stakeholders. And in this sense, these companies are more inclusive, and they have a dialogue with the stakeholder. They listen, they get their feedback, and they incorporate what they get in their business model and strategy. The third element is that a good ESG company have usually they are very good in collecting and managing key data and information. I think Natalie before said that we need data, we need information, right? Because data, particularly in this moment and in the ESG, data are an asset, right, for a company that need to have for an effective strategy execution by management, and also for an effective monitoring of that execution by the board. So having the right data, and I saw Seplat, for example, issued a sustainability report, is not just because we need to issue a report, which is clearly very important in terms of communication of your progress, but also because you can have a better decision-making process. And also through this data, this relevant data collection, validations, and analysis, you can improve your return on investment by allocating capital to more promising and long-term opportunities, for example, and mitigating the risk to have stranded assets that might generate, might not generate long-term value because of ESG issues. And I would like to mention maybe there are many other, but maybe another key elements about these companies that outperform. And this is about purpose. I think it's the same for Seplat. You redefine your strategy, right, and your approach from oil to energy. So you redefine the purpose of the company, and usually having a higher purpose, such as providing energy or to Africa and feed the African continent with this, create or inspire, let's say, your employees and increase productivity. So having a strong ESG strategy usually, not just in the Western world, but usually improve the engagement and the motivation of your employees, with eventually are more productive. So I think that I identify four main reasons why it's important: risk management, stakeholder engagement, data and information management, and motivation of your employees. And I heard all these elements during the conversation today. I stop now because I'm aware of time. Back to you, Florence.
Hello? Hello? All right, thank you. Thank you, Thank you so much. The second question is goes in this way. Can you share some examples of energy companies like Seplat that have demonstrated good ESG performance?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, well, there are a number of companies who are quite good in terms of ESG. However, I try to select a couple, and the first one, you can also show the second slide. I choose it. It's in the oil and gas sector, actually in the refining sector. As you know, refining it's a present a challenging business, at least in Europe or in some part of the world. And from an ESG sustainability point of view, it's a difficult business because of all the impact the refining business has. And of course, because of my previous work also, I have a detailed understanding of this business. I choose this company, which is called Neste. It's a Finnish company, 70 years old. They started as a typical refining business. And more or less in 2010, a little bit more before 2010, they started they triggered a significant R&D program focused mainly on renewable products. And so they at that time they had 3 refineries, one in Singapore, one in Netherlands, one in Finland, and they started to upgrade one of these refineries in Singapore. And basically, at present, Neste now, they have all these the refineries converted to use waste derived fuel feedstock. So, and they use basically spent oil, vegetable spent oil. You would be impressed to know how much vegetable oil is wasted every day in the world. And is a valuable product, high calorific value. So they use basically other type of waste, including plastic. And it's a company that last year they turnover was in the range of 15 billion, of which 1.3 billion was in profit. And 94% of this profit is related to renewable products. I like this company because their mission, remember, they move from a traditional refining fossil fuel-based company to become a leader in providing renewable and circular solutions to their clients. In fact, they most of the business is to provide diesel, renewable diesel, and jet fuel, and their purpose is not just to be neutral in terms of scope 1, scope 2, but is to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of their clients, so airlines and transport company, by 20 million tons of CO2 by 2030. So there is a very strong focus on what is called the scope 3 emission, not just your emission, but also the emission generated by your products. The second company, if you want to maybe to show the third slide, that I choose is another company which is not, I would say, is not complete anymore in the oil and gas sector, but it was. This company is 50 years old, is Danish, Ørsted. It was created 50 years ago to manage the oil and gas resources in the North Sea, in the Danish waters of the North Sea. In 2010, they started a process to, they enter into the electricity business, in the power business. More or less is your third pillar. And initially it was a business, it was a fossil fuel business. So traditional coal and gas-based power station. But the second part of the 2000s, they moved to very aggressively to the renewable electricity. And at present, they are basically they are considered actually the best sustainable energy industry in the world. They've been awarded 5 years in a row as the best or the greenest energy industry. They are the first company that got their targets across the full value chain. So scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. Target according to the science-based target initiative, and they want to be net zero, including the emission of the scope 3 by 2040. So they will be carbon neutral by 2025 in 3 years' time, and completely net zero by 2040. Please note that they still have a gas business, mainly distribution as a retailer. So their plan is to phase out their gas business and to focus entirely on renewable energy. Clearly, this is the only way you can be carbon neutral according to the science-based targets by 2050. What is also interesting in this case, like Nesta, is the focus on the whole value chain, including the supply chain. They have a very strong supply chain system. Just to give you an idea, they are very focused also in reducing the emission associated with the construction of their wind turbines. They mainly focus on offshore wind turbines. On using hybrid vessels, on routing to optimize, the distances, on speeds, vessel speeds, on the steel they use. They want to use a carbon neutral steel for their foundations because they realize it's an important part of their emissions. They are now already developing generators are fully recyclable. So it's what I like about this, like Neste, is a very comprehensive approach, which include the whole value chain. And this is, I think, one of the most interesting, challenging that this transition is posing to all energy companies, including probably Seplat, is the need to be to innovate not just technologically speaking, but also in terms of business model. Back to you, Florence.
Thank you very much, Massimo. That was really impressive. I mean, thinking of a Nest with a 94% profit from renewable products, and not just trying to achieve, but also moving to help their clients reduce greenhouse gas. I think that's really laudable. Just to mention to everyone here that you have an opportunity to ask questions. Please type in your questions or your comments, and then we'll take them We have less than 12 minutes to go, and we'd like to keep it really crisp. So, Brian, do you want to take up your question now?
Sure. Hi, Massimo. So it was just a question from my perspective about what should companies like ours do from an investor or a banker financier perspective? What are they looking at us for?
Hi, Brian. Thanks. Well, we heard before, I think a lot has already been said by the previous speaker. I don't know if maybe just to fix a few numbers, I prepared just one slide. Is my last slide maybe of presentation just for the present to, I can talk, but maybe it helps to fix some numbers. Why, Brian? It was November last year, so 2021. We did a survey involving 320 financial institutions, institutional investors across 19 countries. And the survey was quite interesting, Brian. 90% of the investors confirmed that they, and probably this was also a result of the COVID pandemic, but they, first of all, they would they will look at the ESG performance more carefully, and this was also said by, I think, Eleanor and Natalie. So that's very clear. So 90% of these 320 institutions said for them is much more important. But what is even more important is that 75%, so 2/3 of investors said that they are ready to divest from companies with poor ESG track records. So this is quite significant. And also, more or less 78% of the respondents, they confirm that they are going to analyze, they want to have a better understanding of the physical risk and the transitional risk of the investee. So clearly there is a much more attention on this type of risk. Based on what we discussed so far with some investors, mainly in Europe, I would say, but what they expect is their clients to understand what is the context, what are the risks, as I said, physical, which may prevent the company to deliver what it's supposed to deliver, or transition. So risk in terms of market, technology, regulations, and have a plan. So far I never met an investor that said, or a lender that said, divest from a company. But for sure, they want to understand if the management, if the board is involved, they have a clear understanding of the overall context and what are the plan that the company has to address the potential risk that the company is facing. I don't know if I answer your question.
Thank you. Yes.
Eduje, over to you now.
Okay, thank you, Florence. Hi, Massimo. So my question would be, last year we had COP26 and a lot of climate action targets and objectives were set by both public and private entities, and even Natalie referred to it during her panel session. Do you think that these targets are realistic based on the energy poverty in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? And how will the dynamics play out for underdeveloped countries and emerging economies?
Realistic? This is a 1 billion question. and particularly in a context like the African context, where or other contexts actually, where there is clearly a need of energy. But for me, the question is: do we really have any choice? Because clearly they are very challenging. But on the other side, there is now we start to know there are more evidence that if we don't act, and I don't think we have a lot of time personally, based on what the science says, the consequence of this lack of action will probably be much worse than the cost implicated in what we are doing. So probably, I don't know if I'm not sure I can answer the question if it's achievable. For me, the real question is maybe how can we do it? Well, what can we do to? And I think during the COP26, for me, the most important outcome of that event is that people stop saying, we cannot do it. Is that true? Is that real? I think the most important question was, okay, what can we do now? What are the next steps? How can we do that in a fair and natural way? So for the African countries, I think it's a question to understand what is the best approach. What does it? Because as was said before, I think there is not just one recipe, right? One something that is good for everybody. So to some extent, Africa has potentially an advantage. There is not too many infrastructures on energy, right? So I think there is here a good opportunity to be creative and to have some innovative solutions rather than to just duplicate what eventually is not working in other parts of the world. So Africa is blessed with resources, natural resources, sun, right? For example, water, etc. So rather than to say it's achievable, I would say, okay, how can we do it in a way which is compatible with the African context, yes, and conditions. I don't know if I hope to have answered your question.
Thank you very much, Massimo. And I think that brings us to the end of the session. I know we had mentioned we'll take questions, but in the interest of time, we're unable to take questions. But if you have questions, please keep them coming. We will definitely send them to Massimo and get answers for you and forward them to you as time goes on. Massimo, do you have any last words for us before we close off the session?
Yes. Actually, I didn't prepare it, but I'm Florence. I'm very happy to have attended this event from the very beginning because it gave me a very interesting insight of what the Seplat is doing. And my impression, and I'm not saying that because I'm here, I'm being invited at this event. But based on what I heard from the different speakers at all levels of the organization, right? I had an impression that Seplat is an organization that is walking the talk, and I think there are all the ingredients based on what I see and what I heard. There are all the ingredients to really make this company a success story in the transition from an old business model to a new one, and I think I'm pretty sure that in the next year we'll see Seplat rated BB, then A, then AA, and I would not be surprised to see Seplat becoming an AA, a triple A rated company. I'm sure. with this attitude. I'm very sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Massimo, for that vote of confidence. I do believe that we're all geared towards working together to get the AAA rating. If there's something like a quadruple A, I think we should aim for it. And on that note, I say thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Florence. Thank you, Amici. Thank you to all the panelists online. Thank you, Massimo. Please, a round of applause for them. A round of applause for them. Great job. Thank you. Thank you for the questions that you asked Massimo. Thank you so much. So we're coming to the end of this program. We have been here for quite some time. We've had 2 panel sessions. We've had a fireside chat. And I believe we've had a lot of learnings, interesting conversations, and we are wrapping up. It has been enlightening, informative, and even instructive. Everybody is aware that they have a role to play. I was having a conversation with someone. The person asked me, can you clap with one hand? You cannot, right? You cannot clap with one hand. You need both hands to clap. Someone is trying to clap. You cannot clap with one hand. You need both hands to clap. You need everybody to be on board and deliver on our ESG objectives. So I would like to call to the stage the General Counsel, rather. I was going to say Director of Legal, but the General Counsel, Madam Edith, to give us a wrapping or closing remark before we wrap up properly. Please, a round of applause as she comes up.
Thank you very much, Chiamaka. Wow, this has been explosive. The knowledge sharing, excellent. Dr. C and team, I don't know what to say. This has been something else. I know Dr. C is very passionate about ESG. I think she reflects the value even in her love for green. I think she actually has a green wardrobe. So I'd like to start by saying that Paul McCartney, says there must be a better way to make the things we want, a way that doesn't spoil the sky or the rain or the land. So ESG is about this better way. So you have seen from all that has been presented, Dr. C started by talking about the importance of ESG, talking about the enablers, and the fact that we have committed to a set of actions, objectives, to ensure that we perform in a responsible way, creating long-term value for our stakeholders. She directed us to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals under the UN and the African Agenda on ESG. Also going forward, we had the CEO who talked about our leading vision, which is to lead Nigeria's energy transition with accessible, affordable, and reliable energy. That is not, it doesn't stop there. It says that drives also social economic prosperity. And the overarching arm is strong governance. This is driving our energy transition. So don't forget those words. Very important to remember, what Seplat's ESG agenda is all about. Now, we had several panel sessions, and Alasdair Mackenzie, who is the ESG Steerco chairman, led the panel to answer some questions. Eleanor participated, Effie and Yetunde. Eleanor talked very importantly about the fact that investors pay more attention to ESG performance to ensure that they're part of a company. They want to be part of a company that is sustainable. Yetunde went on to talk about the impact of ESG on our business, how we are working to reducing our carbon footprints, carbon neutrality, our ambitions. But most importantly, she says as we reduce our gas flaring, we grow our gas volumes and commercialization. So it is very important to know that we are actually becoming profitable by making sure we focus on this ambition. Then Effie talked about, the fact that we are an oil and gas company is not really new. I also remember that at a recent conference, we were told, I think the Minister of Namibia was at that conference, and they had just discovered oil in Namibia. So they asked this minister, what is your transition to energy ambition? He said, we just discovered oil in Namibia, and you're asking me for transition. Transition to what? So, but he did go on to say that in the way they operate, drill their wells, they are looking to do it in a sustainable manner. So they are also growing ESG side by side. Now, our board chairman, he's really erudite in our ESG ambition, emphasizing that Seplat is taking the leading role in all we do to ensure sustainability, and also in our engagement with shareholders on the social side as well. We make sure that we're impacting our environment in a positive way. He talked about the Tree for Life project, which is a very strong arm of ESG in terms of preserving nature. We went to the board. The board of Seplat is fantastic. We have passionate people on the board on ESG. You dare not bring any project without explaining the impact and how it will improve our ESG score. So Emma eruditely talked about the process, the just transition, what her commitment is, and she talked about delivering. We must make sure we deliver. Madam Natalie talked about the 3 key milestones. She talked about transition from Seplat Petroleum to energy, which has been our bane since last year when we changed from Seplat Petroleum to Seplat Energy. She also talked about maintaining to ensure we are implementing all that we have committed to. And she did say that we must embed ESG in our processes. So it is not an addition, it is part of us. And they wrapped it up to say that ESG should be our DNA. So you see how important that is in what we do, in our operations, in ensuring that when we do make the profit, we do it in a sustainable way and we impact our environment. Mr. Bello Rabiu talked about the 3 Ps, the people, the planet, and the profitability. So when we work, we must make sure that all of these are being reflected in a sustainable way. Now, I looked at a particular, I think it was a quote in a restaurant, and that quote says, "Save planet Earth, because it is the only place you can find barbecue." So if you like suya, make sure the cows have enough grass to eat. Now, the fireside chat capped it all. Maximo E&Y, was very erudite in talking about ESG leaders, showing better growth rate and access to cheaper finance. So, but to cap it all up, we are here because of collaborating for sustainability. So as everyone has said, it is you and I that need to do this to make it fruitful, to make it a strong reality. So important in delivering, we must deliver our commitment on ESG to our stakeholders. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Put your hands together. Put your hands together for the Director Legal, Company Secretary, in person of Mrs. Edith Onwuchekwa. Wow, what a day.
What a day.
What a day.
Yes, it has been very, very, very enlightening.
When we started this, everybody was wondering, so what is the goal? What is all this ESG day all about? I'm sure by now we all know the essence of the maiden edition of the ESG Day, which has come to stay.
The first of its kind.
The first of its kind. So we're going to have many ESG days. In fact, we're now living ESG. We are now living in the ESG days. And for those that didn't know, what ESG is all about. We believe that now they do know what it's all about.
Yes, there's clarity around what ESG means to us as a company, and I hope that going forward we can all effectively play our part in ensuring that we meet our objectives. Yes, and when we started this program, Madam Chioma actually mentioned two things. She had expectations. She said it was going to be informative, it was going to be enlightening. It was also going to be fun. There's a fun part to it.
You took it.
Yes, so after this session, we have an experience booth just downstairs for everyone to go around, and we would just take pictures. We would also walk you around the tour, the booths that we have set up, and we can all, enjoy it together.
Yeah, exactly. You have the ESG booth. Yes. So you have the environment, you have the social, and you have the governance booth. So make sure you all attend these booths. And there will be what's it called? The fastest fingers?
Yes, there's the fastest fingers coming up as well.
Yeah, at the booths.
And we know a lot of people are ready. We have exciting. You know how
look at the London people. Hi guys.
Hi. Oh, I can see Patient's dog there.
Yeah, dog, yeah.
Hi. And that's Jane as well.
Jane,
so hi everyone over there.
Hello everyone. Yeah.
Yes. If we can see other locations as well, technical team.
Yeah, technical team, you can see other location. Hi Sapele. Let's give it up for Sapele. Everybody put your hands together for Sapele. Exactly. And give it up for
Oben. There's Oben. We have Oben. We have Rapel. We have Oweri as well. Yes. Abuja. Yes. Yes.
And of course, we have a wonderful audience here in Lagos, and those who are also virtual, everyone.
Yes.
I think everybody should put their hands together for themselves. Yeah. But there's someone that is best placed, to really
appreciate everybody.
Appreciate everybody. Yes. She knows what has gone into this. She knows the sleepless nights. She knows about the creativity, the strategizing, and to be able to pull together, all of these very important personalities, considering their time schedule and all of that. Who else but Dr. Chioma Nwachukwu, Dr. C, the delectable Dr. C. Put your hands together for the Director, External Affairs and Sustainability, Dr. Chioma Nwachukwu. Put your hands together for her.
My goodness. I am so humbled, so delighted. I didn't know that this will turn out to be as great as this. And you all made it this great. It will be good to just say thank you, because if I start mentioning the various people who made this great, I may miss somebody. But the truth is that all of you, online, here, everywhere, made this great. When I spoke earlier on, I didn't mention our board members. I wanted that to be a surprise. But can you see how collaboratively we brought everybody together? Our board members gave us the honor and gave us the time to share this day with us. To that we say thank you, starting from our chairman, and the director legal just captured everything when she spoke about what everybody said. So I'm not going to go through that. But at least we all witnessed that from our chairman, the board members, and the chairman of my sustainability committee, Madam Natalie Delapam, they were also engaged. And they were very practical on what we needed to do to move this ESG narrative forward. And then the various panels, how passionately everybody drove it. Starting with the stakeholder chairman, Lester, and the other three panelists, Eleanor, Yetunde, and Effie. It was passion, passion. And there was one word I had: deliver, deliver, deliver. Another one I had: DNA. Those two, put them together. We are going to be where? Up there at the top. And then to get up to the top, just as you say you don't clap with one hand, we need everybody to muster that strength to put us up there. And by coming here today, you have demonstrated that. By listening, you have demonstrated that. So I don't have any fear. So I want to say thank you to my CEO as well. He was very inspirational in making sure this day came to become a reality. And every other person, the people who planned it, don't look at me, I'm not the one. There's a very big team behind it. Charles, Esther, Ahmed, Diola. Let me not forget anyone. That's why I don't want to mention any of them. There are just a whole lot of people who passionately stood by us and said, ESG is very collaborative. You can even see Emmanuel from the base station. You can see Amechi from Owerri. Yeah. So these are people who actually understood what we're trying to achieve and worked with us. And we're very delighted that it has come to a point where if you ever watch this video, we have a recording of it, by the way, you will see the key takeaways, and we're hoping to move that gap of 80-something% say they know what it is. We close that gap. I'm even very delighted we have up to 85 or 66 saying they know what it is. So that 14%, we're going to close it. And our beautiful conquerors. What a pair. Debo and Chiamaka, what a pair. Please clap for them. Okay, just to cap it up, I had mentioned our experiential booth downstairs. So what we did, we actually made a documentary of a few minutes for those who can definitely be in this building. And I encourage everyone who is in this building to come downstairs. So we're going to end by saying thank you, as we will deliver again, so it will be in our DNA. And we'll leave the stage by leaving those who can go downstairs to watch what downstairs look like. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you again next year. Bye-bye.
Happy ESG Day, my dear colleagues. We are really delighted to bring to you a lot of activities today to drive down the message that we want to deepen the understanding of ESG in the organization. So one of the things we did was to create an exhibition hall, a hall that has everything we have achieved as a company, so you can be proud that you've been part of the success of creating social impact, social environmental impact, creating governance impact. So on this hall today, you have a chance to see what we've been doing over the years. We have games that will enable you win prizes. We have infographics on what we're doing in the company so that you can, at a glance, be able to tell the Seplat story, be the Seplat ambassador that you are. And then understand as well, we have our new business direction, the new energy and renewables, all debated in the exhibition hall. So we welcome you to also check your eyes. So we have also created a stand where we have the I Can See program being replicated. The doctor is there. You can get your glasses. You can get your eyes checked. It is an all-inclusive and all very, very lovely hall. You need to come see it. It's where we are proud to say we are Seplat staff and we're ambassadors of Seplat. Please come down to the exhibition hall and be on this journey with us as we show you through the cameras if you are unable to come physically. Thank
you. Welcome to the governance booth. Today is the ESG Day, Seplat, and we're collaborating for sustainability. One of the things that Seplat prides itself in is being the only Nigerian company to be listed on both the Premium Board of Nigerian Stock Exchange and the main market of the London Stock Exchange. The board has put in place lots of policies and lots of procedures to ensure that ESG, with the G being the governance aspect, is well embedded and well understood by all stakeholders, particularly the members of the board, management, and the staff. And so we have here, we have the Code of Business Conduct that talks about integrity. The cardinal word there is integrity. Integrity in business practice, integrity at the workplace, and integrity in the community in every aspect of the society where we find ourselves. Ethics, of course, is embedded in all of our policies, and it essentially speaks to the moral fabric of our values, of our culture. Transparency is very key to us in Seplat, because as a premium listed company, we expected there is a heightened level of transparency, and we have won. We're proud to announce that we have won a series of of awards, even by the Nigerian Exchange Group, in terms of transparency. Modern day slavery policy. We are very clear, the board is very clear regarding modern day slavery. It is zero tolerance to any form of servitude, any form of, and it ties also with the human rights policy. And we place premium on respect for all human beings created by God. Conflict of interest. Every employee, every director, every manager, everyone in Seplat is expected to declare their conflicts, if any at all. Indigenous people's rights, we are very concerned about the community in which we operate, and we pay a lot of focus to the rights of the communities in which we operate. We encourage people to speak out, and so we have put in place a whistleblowing policy, and we have a whole architecture framework that ensures that you can declare, that you can speak out against any form of breach to our policies, to our ethical values, via the whistleblowing portal. And also we have the supply chain monitoring. We have a very robust and vast, educated, experienced supply chain team, and they ensure that all the due processes are followed when it comes to contracting. Anti-bribery and corruption, we have an anti-bribery corruption policy. It's zero tolerance to any form of anti-bribery and corruption, and the board pays keen attention to this aspect. We have human rights policies in place. Human rights, we respect, there is a respect for everybody's rights, whether you be irrespective of your gender, irrespective of your creed, irrespective of your race. And the modern slave trade statement has been put in place by the board to ensure that all our contracting process ensures that there is no undue servitude of the young, of the child, or even of the female gender. We also have a freedom of association. We have we put in place in Seplat a number of initiatives that allows people to express themselves within the company organization. Diversity and inclusion is very, very key to the board. It's very, very key to management. People come from diverse aspects of countries, of race, of religion, of tribe. And of course, you will be amazed to know that in Seplat, the board has female members in its composition, and we have quite a number of females in the senior leadership team, and of course in the entire organization. Once again, happy ESG Day, and let's keep on collaborating for sustainability. My name is Adibo Alieboda.
You're welcome to what Seplat is doing with respect to renewable energy, which is a very important pillar of our business, the third pillar of our ESG journey. Now, in renewable energy, there are lots of opportunities that the world is transitioning into that makes the energy very, very useful and also sustainable. You have energy from wind, you have solar power, solar panels, you have energy that is derived from biomass, and also electric cars, which are becoming the in thing of the future. There are opportunities to tap into all these different energy forms that are moving us away from fossil fuel into a future that is sustainable, that ensures that we are able to compete favorably with all those in the world in terms of our delivery of value to all our stakeholders. And by focusing on renewable energy, whether it is solar, whether it is biomass, whether it is tapping into the energy from the sun, or energy from geothermal and many other forms of renewable and sustainable energy, you can then see the profitability that we are bringing into the business and moving from decarbonization to a world that depends less on carbon. By the way that Seplat is set up, we have started that transition, and there's commitment right from the highest level of the organization, the board, the management, the leadership, and we're embedding that all across the organization. So today is an important day where we can showcase many of the things that we are doing within that space. And you're welcome to join us, to partner with us, even as we move ahead. Thank you very much.
Here in the CSR booth, you are going to be wondering what is the correlation between ESG and CSR. My name is Charles Ifediba. ESG is actually a criteria used by investors to measure the health of a company. But CSR is actually talking about social too, but it is a business model that organizations use to be able to impact and drive social values to their communities. How do we do it in CSR here in Seplat? Seplat's CSR model is based on direct intervention, and we have done that using 5 pillars to be able to affect our society and our community. What are these 5 pillars? We do this using our economic empowerment, education, health, community development, and the environmental stage. Let's start on the environment. Let's start with the education. Educationally, we have been able to affect about 600 lives with our scholarship. 34% or more of that comes from our direct communities where our operations are from. Still talking about education, PELSWIS. In PELSWIS, we have impacted well over 51,000 people. PELSWIS is a competition held with secondary schools in Edo and Delta, our operational states. What do we do with that? Part of what we try to do is to be able to help them academically so that their results will be better. What else have we done with PELSWIS? With PELSWIS, we have been able to touch the infrastructure of various schools, giving them various things such as language laboratories, science laboratories, e-libraries, normal libraries, computer libraries, and of course, we have been able to help them with 1 or 2 structures in their building. What else under our education? Under our education, yes. This one is both education and empowerment. We call it STEP, the Seplat Teachers Empowerment Program. Using the Seplat Teachers Empowerment Program, which we have run over the last 2 years, we have impacted, of course, 314 teachers across both states and over 49 chief inspectors of education. In health, we try to close our SDGs 3, and under health, we are looking at what we call I Can See, which of course you can see here today, is our eye care health program where we have impacted well over 86,000 people. We have successfully carried out over 2,600 surgeries, and of course reading glasses to the tune of 36,000 have been given to patients. Or still under our health program, we have had what we call the safe motherhood. Though rested, with that one we talk to our women, our wives, our mothers on child health care. Still under our healthcare program and closely related to our infrastructural development, we have impacted various health centers such as the Sapele Children and Pediatric Ward. In closing out, we also empower our people directly. There are so many ways we do, so many things we do to empower people in our communities, and to you, that will give us freedom to operate and of course help the brand Seplat. Have a wonderful day today. Bye for now.
Our model is to partner with our communities, build trust with the communities, manage the community grievance, and create benefits, sustainable benefits for our communities. And using the atmosphere therefore created, or thereby created, the peaceful atmosphere, the social license to operate, using that as an opportunity to develop our communities. So in the community community development bit, the company ensure that the communities are proactively engaged. We do not wait for things to happen before we engage our communities. There's a proactive engagement. We anticipate the things before it becomes an issue with the communities. And when there are grievances expressed by the communities are engaged on those issues with the hope to solving the issues. And over the years, Seplat has made significant impact in the communities.
We welcome everyone to the ESG Day, and we wish you a very, very fruitful day. My name is Golden Atigan from Corporate HSC. Today, as we celebrate the ESG Day, as we mark it, I'd like to just tell us
that this is a journey that I've started time back. And in Seplat, we are committed to high standard of HSE performance throughout all our operations, with the aim of ensuring the provision of safe workplace for all that works with us, including the community, and of course, minimizing the impact of our operation on the environment. So as we celebrate the ESG Day, I want you to know that HSE is integral in the whole of ESG activities. Why do I say so? You have the environment, you have the social and the governance. There is nothing that you do outside the environment. So from that point, everything we do in HSE is integral to in the ESG. And of course, HSE is core to our operations. Before every operation starts in Seplat, you must first of all do your risk assessment. In the area of environment, it includes having to do your environmental impact assessment, having to interact with the host communities, having to ensure that all identified risks and hazards associated with any ongoing or proposed project is taken care of. Now, in doing that, we ensure that we embed all controls to make sure that whatever we're going to do in the environment minimizes impact on the environment itself. Our operation, provision for every staff to make sure that they are fit to do their work and they are safe while they are doing their work. And then when we bring in the committee, the host communities, we also ensure that the same standard we pass ourselves through, the same standard we pass them through, the same standard we ensure that our contractors meet with. And that has helped us. In the past 3 years, running into 4 years, we have operated without an LTI. That's a very huge achievement. That's a very huge achievement over the period, and we intend to continue to do so. So at every point in time, we seize the opportunity to reassess ourselves, set new targets for ourselves, and then help to ensure we, achieve better results in line with our commitment to our HSE policy. So as we celebrate today, we want to wish every one of us a good time, a good understanding, and we appeal to everybody to keep being part of the ESG. This is now the trend in the global space for our business to continue to thrive, for our investors to continue to see us as the choice company to invest in. We must maintain a good corporate citizenship. And of course, to do that, we need our ESG to be top-notch. Thank you very much and have a very wonderful celebration. Thank you.